What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of CTF Underground. My name's Alb, and hosting with me once again, we got Kelby. How's it going, brother?
Doing good, man. Appreciate it. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Can't complain. So, this is our first episode in probably a month and a half now, maybe 2 months.
About 2 months, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while. Part of the reason for that is because during OvDL League, there was some sporadic scheduling with captains and teams, and it was few and far between for a while until like the last week or so of it. Maybe last 2 weeks, and then games started getting played. A couple squads faded out, so we didn't really feel the need to do one of these. But now that it's over and we're getting into Draft League 3, we're going to start bringing it back again for you guys. So I don't know if you have anything to say about all of that, Kelby, but if you do, more than welcome to touch on it.
Yeah, I think last time we talked, we were complaining about how Darkslayers had just murdered us at H4 for the first time. And now 2 months later, they murdered us there twice. So I'm probably not going to harp on it for 30 minutes this time, but that's where we're at.
All right, so with that being said, OvDL has completed. It ended up being 5 squads or 5 teams that battled it out, and ended up with the winners being the squad Des and Friends, which both Kelby and I are part of. So congratulations to Des and Friends on taking the victory in the OvDL League number 1. It was a great time, I gotta say, and I really enjoyed it, and there was some good competition between the teams as well throughout the middle of the league, so it was really good to see. With that being said, we do have a little special guest on here for you guys for this podcast. He's the captain of the Des and Friends team, the one and only Herthbul. How's it going, dude?
I'm doing great, gentlemen. How are you guys doing this fine evening?
No complaints. So with that being said, we're going to bring Herthbul in here. We're going to talk to him a little bit about being captain of his team, being captain of the winning team, you know, the ins and outs, memorable moments, what he liked, what he didn't like. So Herth, take it from the top. Tell us all about your experience.
It was actually, the intro, like getting the squad started was kind of hard just because we had to work around, obviously, your schedule with all the things going on in your life and everything, and the other guys too. But it was great to actually get the 5 of us together because other than infantry, what we like together as games, like the genre, is completely different. Des does his whole simulator tower defense stuff because he's got gaming ADHD. Kelbs does his ARPG stuff. I do my RPGs. Albert just sucks. And Jesse does whatever the hell Jesse does.
Shooter games and stuff.
Pretty much. So it was nice to get us all back to where the Bud ship really started.
Yeah, I agree. It was, I think it's, so I played on CC with you guys season 7, which is like a huge topic on this podcast.
I don't remember that.
I was in spec, you know, just first time in CTFPL doing my thing. But other than that, I've never actually played on a team or squad with you. I got to play with Kelby on BDS a couple times, but it is the first time that all 5 of us actually got together. I played lots with Desi and Wolven when Desi wasn't on the shower with your dad simulator. But otherwise, like, I haven't got to play with you, so it was cool actually playing with you. And I got to play a lot of engineer with your medic, which was also really cool. We had a lot of like double flanks, and we had a lot of fun, I'm gonna say, especially in a champ match doing the double flank and all that. So I agree. It was definitely awesome.
Sorry, Bonds. We didn't mean to do it to you.
It did look tough. I think Desi brought it up right after the game in the post game. Like, people, yeah, there's complaints about stacking. You guys have too many good players. You're all elitist bricks. Maybe we are elitist bricks. I know I am. But it really was like special for most of us to get to play together. And like these guys said, yeah, we played together when we were like 14 or something. But even some of the guys who I've been really close friends with, like I'll say Dez and Wolven, I've played on squads with them before, but not on the same side. Like, the few times I got to play on BDS with Wolven, he's defense, I'm offense. If Dez was on BDS, he was defense, I was offense. This was the first time that like the 5 of us got to play, share the same side of the field together. And, you know, I talked about how much I love OVDs personally before. I just love playing with people that are fun to play with. Even, you know, Grump, who not a lot of people know Grump, but for Herth and I, like, Grump is core to our CTFX nerd history. That guy was the engineer on my legendary squad of 13-year-old pricks, Tactical Destruction. Like, it was so cool to run it back with him all these years later. Like, we're adults, our lives have changed, but I can't say enough good things about just the opportunity that we got to play together and really just turn back time for 20 years.
It was great too, also to play with Joe and the other Joe, Andro. He got the okay. Well, one of the two. It was fun.
Okay.
Okay. 0? All right. I guess we'll go with 0.
No, go ahead, Herth. You're the captain. You got it.
No, thanks. No, if you want to take it away from me, that's cool too.
No,
But
you got it. You got it.
no, it was just fun because obviously we've known Joe for a long time too. So having him on the squad was great. And Andro somehow found a voice and a microphone. And we found out that he never stops talking. It's like someone needs to take that thing away from him.
I think we bring the worst and best out of some people.
I know on some previous podcasts, Albert and I talked about, and I'm not going to go deep into CC, but like when we were kids, man, we took this game so seriously and we put the time in to figure everything out. I think a lot of participants in the OvDL took that for granted and didn't understand. Some of us were still doing that, like especially the last month or two of the season. Really, for me, like the beginning of December through the end of the tournament in January or whatever, I was putting a lot of time in behind the scenes, just trying to like hone my craft, be ready for anything, so the team's not let down. And a lot of the other guys too, like Andrew, who didn't play a lot, I'll credit him. He was there with me for like an embarrassing amount of hours per day, just helping me with turret drills, like little stuff. And I said it before, like I think practice is the difference. Where the squads who got the reps in practice, they look like threats throughout the season, like only frags. And even Matt's squad got reps in. The others who couldn't find those scrimmage games or internal practices or anything, they just never really seemed motivated. We saw some of them fade. The ones that didn't fade didn't seem to be enjoying it. So I think it sucks for those guys, but I'm also really lucky that I had a group to play with who cared at least close to as much as I did.
That's one thing about the organized leagues. It really showcases and brings to light how much of a factor chemistry and communication and coordination really comes into play. Like with us, even though the 5 of us are, just to brag, we're very talented individually, but when you start throwing in like the communication and having players in spec with great spec info, the exponential factor of how much better we become just goes through the roof.
Yeah, it becomes absurd at some point, and that sucks for the other squads. But at some point, it's like, hey, get good. Like if we're putting the time in, you can put it in or not. We're still putting it in.
Yeah, that really worked for us at H4 though, didn't it, Kelby?
Well, anyways,
I gotta say that was probably the best part for me. Like obviously, other than winning, I said it before. I absolutely love winning, but like just grinding, spending time figuring stuff out, figuring out plans, plays. The time in H4 was pretty shitty, but it was fun trying to crack it. And I think like it brings us back to what we used to talk about being on MS Paint and trying to figure shit out, and how much damage this does, that does. I think that was probably the most fun for me. Was just like grinding.
Just nerding out. We were acne-filled teenagers again who happen to be close to 40. So we got the results we wanted.
It brings back really good memories of doing squad practices 2 or 3 times a week. Because again, I remember back in Camp Chaos doing the practice there and making Rufo and Chucky rage after every 30 minutes to 45 minutes. And you're like, okay, practice is over.
Like it's competitive if you get to play with 5, 6, 7, 8 people who you're close friends with, and you're all competitive. You want to win against each other. You want to win together. You don't want to let each other down. It's a very different feeling than, hey, I just got put into a mix or a draft team that doesn't communicate. Let's run this and see what happens. It's night and day. It's a different game.
Yeah, I agree. That's one of the downsides I feel to like the mixes and the draft leagues and stuff, is that you don't know what you're gonna get. And thankfully, I'm a captain in the upcoming draft league, so I kind of got a say in that. But at the same time, there's not like a huge field of people, and some people don't talk and they don't like to talk. And they might have microphones. Like, I mean, Andrew had a microphone. He didn't like to talk. You know what I mean? So like you're gonna get that. You're gonna get the people who don't communicate or don't want to put in the reps. They just want to show up Sundays, which is completely fine because it is a draft league. But it does take away from what you're saying, where like everyone's on the same page. The communication Herth touched on earlier is just there. Like, I don't know how many times that like we're playing and you as a DM are like calling out names of people to kill, and then you're like, how much talks you got? So like, it's just all that communication comes into one. If I didn't have a microphone, it would have been completely different, especially like if I'm flanking or, if I got the SL dead or, about to clear or something like that. I think it really brings like a huge advantage. Communication is big. And like the chemistry Herth said, we definitely got it. Not even just from playing this game, but from many games that we played together. It's just like, I don't know, comfort maybe in playing with each other. But I really had a good time, I got to say.
Yeah, I don't think, and I think I mentioned this post game. Like, I don't think we'll get a chance to do it again in a competitive environment, and that's fine. I said before, personally, I don't think PL is good for this community where you get to pick your teams and everything. But it was cool. We got to do it one time, and I do recall there were some doubters. I think it was game 2 of the finals when we did bring in Andrew and Grump on offense. That commentary team was doubting, like, oh, they may not get it done. Could be a 10-minute run. What you didn't see, and I mentioned this before, but I'll give them credit. These guys also put the time in. Yeah, they didn't unspec with us like during the regular season because we're fools and didn't organize that well enough. But it was important to us. They put the time in during the weekdays when we should be working, but we're all IT nerds who get to work from home. Sorry, Herth, you're not. But like we were in there practicing with them, so they were ready to go. Like, hey, you guys want a shot to like get the championship? Yeah, let's get it. That 3 minute or 4 minute run, whatever. It wasn't like Albert and I were hard carrying this. Like they carried their weight, and it just shows like again, you put the practice in, you work with multiplicative people who can help you. You can get much different results than the average spectator may expect.
I
It was
agree.
nice. Yeah, sorry to cut you off, Al, but it was nice also in the final game. We actually got playtime for all 8 members.
Mhm.
So it really did feel like we culminated this in a complete team effort.
Yeah, for sure. What I was going to say is that even them being in spec and watching us play with the communication that we have, like
Yeah.
Doc, for example, who doesn't unspec very much, he gets to see what Desi's doing and hear what Desi's saying and like what we're telling him to do. So like by not playing as well, he's gaining the experience and the knowledge to know what to do in certain situations by just watching us and like being part of the team and playing in the practices. We'll tell him what to do, and I think that goes a long way as well. Like if you put anyone in that situation, they're gonna obtain the knowledge if they want to. You know what I mean? They'll get better if they want to.
Yeah. I think a lot of the game, like at this micro level, people think, oh, it's individual player skill driven and you get all the best players together, it's going to be great. I've said for the longest time, like, you don't need to have the best aim. You don't need to have the best survivability. You just need to know what to do, when to do it. Like, if everyone on your team is on that same page of what we're doing, when we're doing it, you get results like we got. We're on defense, we're hardly ever touched. On offense, we're pretty strong. Like, we just work together. It's not, no one's doing anything random. We understand the moves made all the time. But one more spot I want to call out. The final game, we're attacking H4 against Bond Squad. Our very first push, I remember commentary said something like, I don't know what Angelus is doing. He's pushing up by himself. This is crazy. That's misunderstanding like the tempo of the game that the rest of us are understanding. My inventory is empty. I have something like 14 HP and I'm Carapace. I'm telling my team as soon as I'm on timer for Wolven's respawn, you guys hold here, I'm going to respawn. I need to refresh my inventory. And then following that, we push and start doing damage. Like, we're all on the same page, and I think a lot of squads are they're just running it. Like, it's just hey, I'll be back in 12 seconds. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. Like, they're just not organized, and we felt playing against it, and I think most spectators could see it as well.
Knowing on your team, especially like your team members' equipment and what they have. Hey, who has all 3 reps? Who
Yeah.
still has their geysers? Calling that out, knowing who needs to refresh at what time, who needs to push because they actually do have the reps in the rep charge still, who doesn't. That's all stuff that needs to get thrown out for anything to be effective, whether it's defense or offense. And unfortunately, that's stuff that we know just because we grew up in that environment, competitive from how we started playing PL back in season 3.
Yeah.
So, but some of these newer players, they just don't have that experience and what to look out for. So, hopefully, some of these veteran members, like yourself, Albert, in this upcoming DL3, you can impart, like, hey, this is the stuff that you need to talk about as you're playing the match.
Yeah, for sure. I really enjoyed doing that in Draft League 2, like on Pizza Rats. I got to like help a lot of people out and teach them a few things. I mean, you and Kelby came in too and helped out, and Desi too. Helped out all the different classes, the offense, the heavies. Like, I think across the board, I think we all have that in us where we like to help out and like teach people how to play and just make the player pool better so that it's not so shitty and mixes when people aren't knowing what to do and you got to play with them. It makes it a lot harder. So I think as a whole, like, even goes back as far as a dojo with Silly, like he's just helping people get reps in and play and like figure stuff out and awareness. So I think as a whole, it's really good, and like I enjoy doing it. I can't wait to do it again on my squad. I just hope that I have the people who want to learn. I draft them right, and the ones that I don't know that like they want to learn, right? That would be the main thing.
They've got to be willing learners, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on in this podcast, like our own evaluation of the players. But I've brought these names up before, like Chompy, Cal, Tactical. These guys who ask questions, take feedback, even if they're not asking questions. Like, they're the ones that are ascending the ranks of everything. They're the ones that others want to pick them now because they're learning the game at the same way that we at this high level are playing it. So you got to be willing to learn. If you're a really good player, but you're argumentative with other good players, a lot of us just don't want to play with you. I'll be blunt about it.
Nope, I completely agree. It's like, look, if you're good, but you're not great, look, you have to accept, hey, there's always room for improvement and walk into it with that sense of humility. Like, hey, there might be some little nuance that I'm not picking up on, and someone shows you that, and it takes your game to the next level. Don't walk into it thinking, I'm already a 9 or a 10. I don't need anything else. That's the completely wrong attitude to have.
It's even internal, with our own squad, like the 5 of us, the core 5 that played most games, we all had feedback for each other in moments, in discussions, in practice. Like, it'd be better if you could do this, because then I can do this. Like, you've got to be adapting to what you're surrounded by, and then like just figure it out together and be open to it.
And you have to also adapt to each other's play styles. Like Albert does not play engineer the same way that Dez does.
Yeah.
Albert's way more in your face with nades, instant, TB flanks. Dez is way more of a passive EB, TB string. So how the rest of the team plays has to completely change based on just that switch in personnel at that position.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure.
I was just gonna say, like, I think Herthbul himself, and I hate to credit Herthbul because I hate the guy, but I think most of us in the community would agree Herth's kind of in his own tier as medic right now. Like, he will carry a defense as medic, but Herth is also open to feedback from any of us. Or like, if he's playing competitively during a game, and I'm like, Herth, you're doing too much of this, too much of this. He doesn't say, well, the reason I'm doing it is, he says, no, you might be right. I'll try to change it, and that's it. Like, that's the attitude you want to play with. That's what I would encourage you all to be like.
I mean, you kind of saw it in when we were up against OnlyFans and they ran the 5 or 4 JT offense. Yeah. I can't play my normal style. It just doesn't work. I mean, so I have to completely switch to a different style. And being able to switch between style A and style B or style C, depending on what's being thrown your way, that is not to brag, but that's kind of what puts me at that tier because I know all those styles. And for people that are at that tier in other classes, like in infantry or heavy or whatever, it's because they know multiple styles to play because everything, depending on who you're up against, it might be different, the same classes, but the enemy's going to play it maybe differently depending on the players. You have to adjust on the fly.
There was a time in that game, too, with the JTs there you're talking about, where you were, like, falling back and I was with you and you were shooting tranks up and I was like, just EB with me. Like, but Kelby said, you could have been like, fuck you, I'm going to shoot my tranks. Yeah. But instead, we just double EB'd him, right?
No, that's because you told me. If Kelby told me that, I would have told him to go fuck himself.
One thing I want to shout out before we get off this topic is in that final game at H4 against Penguin Squad,
Anti-Ego.
Yeah. We ran like our core 5. I just want to say that there was talks of putting in like Andro and Grump and stuff to play another game, and shout out to those guys because they were like, you know what, this is the last time you guys are gonna get play together. You guys go in and play it and have fun together or whatever. So I just wanted to bring that up in case we're getting off this right now. That was pretty cool of those guys.
No, I agree, and I mentioned before, like Des said it best. It's fun to play. We may never get to play with us 5 again, so we were nerding out over like this is Mighty Ducks finale stuff for us. Like, let's go out there and get the medal. Let's crush these kids. And everyone was on the same page. So, yeah, we did want to maximize playtime for all the contributors. But I'll echo that shout out to what we'd call spec info traditionally. But the other guys, the other 3 in our squad, 4 if you include Fizzum, the unofficial member who wasn't on the squad but was there for all the spec info. Like, thanks for letting us have a go at it because I don't think we get to do it again.
I would echo that sentiment, but I'm going to take it back for Fizzum because his spec info was ass.
Well, he tried.
He'd be like, Fizzum, does the medic have a TB? He's like, maybe.
He said he might.
He might.
The one time he said the SL didn't have a, I think it was, I can't remember who it was. Does the SL have a blink? No. Like 5 seconds later, it's like, who's that behind us, bro?
If you guys remember game 1 of the finals, we had Doc doing spec info. And Doc is Grump, for those that don't know. He's spec info on the SL, I believe. And I habitually ask on defense all the time when we push out, is there any blink? And he's not answering me. And I am so like passive to quickly say, I'm back. If he has a blink, I'm back. Like if they don't confirm there's no blink, I'm the guy. And it's probably because I play OMF too. Like I'm always thinking, is home okay? So even when I'm playing defense, I'm thinking, are we going to be okay if they blink? So I'm the one falling back. If you look at the videos, like, I don't know if they have one. I'm back. So shout out to Doc, who was muted as number 1 spec info. Pretty good every game outside of that one. Gave us a good laugh in between rounds.
Wasn't he muted for all of game 1?
Yeah, he did his best.
It was like 2 minutes after the game where he was like, oh my God, I was muted that whole time.
thinking like Bond just didn't blink any. Oh, that's weird. Okay.
I do want to also shout out Joe for game 1 because he actually took a bit of mercy and he like turned around even though we were chasing him out to the old D3 elevator. He was like, this feels bad. And he literally turned and went the other way.
Yeah.
There's a few times where I was like, man, I feel bad for Frank. I don't want to do this to Frank, bro.
Like, I hear what you guys are saying, but I don't operate that way. Like, it's no offense to anyone. I'm playing to win. And I was thinking, like, if we push them all the way to A1, I don't care. I don't consider it bad manner. We're not cheating. I want us to have the best shot of winning. So I think it was Joe said, like, I'm not going to push. That's bad manner. I was like, shut the fuck up. Let's go. Like, this is it. We came here for this. And I meant it. Like, that's how I play the game if it's competitive. I don't care who's on the other side. It's no offense to anyone.
I mean, it's probably the proper way to play. I just felt so bad for Frank because he's such a good dude.
Albert, you say that, but you and I were both literally spawning from the dropship looking to get those manual flanks. So we weren't feeling too bad about it.
Well, I mean, Kelby wasn't stopping. There was one time where me and you were both flanking together, and Kelby comes in from the dropship on a flight pack out of nowhere.
That was great. I think it was Axis that made the quip like, wow, Kelby and Her's coordination's really great because Kelby came flying by in a flight pack. I'm like, what? Until I had to watch the VOD to see the moment, like, oh my God, he really did.
Yep, totally coordinated. Well done.
I gotta say, that was fun. That whole series was fun. I really enjoyed it.
I've always been the overly serious person on any game like this. If it's a ranked or competitive game, like I'm all in to win. There's no emotion associated with like being kind or anything. I'm down to crush anyone or die trying. Even at the end of that game, if you guys remember, Duet subbed in as Inful. We immediately saw it. I think I yelled it a second after the Cloakers thing came up. Said, Inful NES on! So we're all looking. And then I see fucking Dez TKing Albert's turrets in the flag room giggling because he's so bored. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, fucking stop. And I think all four of you are like, I think we're okay, Kelbs. Nah, I'm not okay till the game's over. Like, let's go to 0, then we're okay.
Yeah, you were like, there's 2 minutes left.
Yeah, don't kill the plasmas. Infil's in. Like, you never know. Herthbul catching RT. There's no TD in the flag room. We lost the game.
Dude, I caught him doing that multiple times. He ended the game with top turret damage.
I remember you caught him the first time, and he like tried to hide in the base, like you didn't see him.
He's acting like he's a mouser clicking on ammo or something. He's like, oh, okay. Man, what the hell? My plasma's red. It was fun, though, I gotta say. So we're gonna wrap it up on that topic right now. We'll move into the next topic, which is OvDL versus DL3. So basically, I want to know what your guys' opinions are of it. Like, what do you think's better? What do you think's more fun? Like, I know 2 of you aren't playing in DL3, so Kelby, you go first. Tell me, your idea of it, your opinion on it. OvDL versus DL3.
Yeah. I mean, I said this before, and it sounds like a joke or self-deprecation or something, but I'm dead serious. I think I'm just too much of an elitist prick to enjoy the draft league, given the community. Like, I love the OvD league because it's small sample size and each player in the game represents 20% of the player power. When I get further down the depth list and like a mix, and I've got 2 or 3 people on my 10-person team not paying attention or just not on the same page, I'm just not having a good time. Like, I'm too competitive for it. So I had thought like, oh man, this may go in the OvD draft scenario where we do an OvD league again, but it's drafted. I would love that, but I also understand like the majority of players think, oh, I can't get playtime, especially now with the negative sentiments around OvD league where I think 2 of the squads faded after it started or something. That was just tough. So if there's not another OvD league, I doubt you'll see me playing. I don't enjoy playing with people, 1, I don't know, or 2, don't listen. And when we get into player evaluations, I kind of view a lot of the community in that sector or that pool of people. So it's not fun for me in the draft leagues, but I do understand that it's a lot of fun for other people. And I do enjoy helping with like no stakes attached. If people want help, reach out. We'll talk about that every week, but we'll see what happens.
That makes sense. I mean, I kind of get it. I got pretty fortunate with Pizza Rats in Draft League 2. Yeah. But I know there were some squads in Draft League 1 that did not get fortunate, and it was a bad experience and a bad time. I'm hoping that this kind of goes a little better. There's a lot of people who haven't been logging on lately who are signed up, so it's kind of scary. Again, like, I'm just happy that I'm captain and kind of have some control over who I pick or who I play with. But at the end of, you get so far down that depth list, you only have so many options, right? And you're going to have to pick people who haven't been logging in or you haven't played with or you don't really know what they're like. So like, it could be a toss up. It could go either way. Luckily, I think there's 17 players right now on every squad with the player pool we have signed up. So there should be, hopefully, you don't need NTs, and there should be enough people where you can get a solid list and your supports, and you can play it out. And I just wanted to say about the draft league, or the draft OvD league, I think it's something that can happen. Like, I know that a couple teams faded in this one, but I think that's totally due to the captains and how they picked their teams. Like, I think that they had probably done it better, I think it would have been better. And there's a few people who didn't play as well because it wasn't a draft. I think if we did a draft, we'd probably get like 10 teams if we had enough captains to do it. And I think that it's something that would be fun. And there's honestly no reason not to try to do it when USL is running, because otherwise, CTF's dead if you don't have something going on.
Yeah. And maybe it's something. Sorry, Hearth, let me just finish.
Go ahead.
Maybe it's something that happens in the future. It's not something I'm going to go out of my way to push, but if it happens, I think a lot of us would be interested in it, at least from our little group. Like, if I have to captain against Albert in an OVD league, like, I'm down. I'll pick my 4. He can pick his 4. It's fun. But then him picking his 9 versus me picking my 9, I just can't find the depth that I'm going to enjoy playing with. And I talked about like how even in a game when we're crushing in the OVD league, I'm so serious about competitive gaming on this that like I just can't bring myself to do it for the draft league.
You'd be yelling at people.
Absolutely.
He
Like,
would.
Poor Loaf Pincher. He seems like one of the nicest guys, but like, imagine me talking to Loaf Pincher when he's just trying to do his best. It's not a good scenario.
You could just be losing your shit as he's trying to manually flank.
Yeah, on spawn.
No, I agree with that.
I would love to see a draft OVD league, only because I want to see the player pool expand their knowledge of the game. There's a lot of players out there right now that like, oh, I only play this, or I only play defense, I only play offense. Knowing both sides, like, one thing that helps me is like, I play SL and medic, so I play offense and defense. I know the tempo and what to look for on both sides, and I can use that knowledge as I'm playing the other class too. Like, oh, the SL's probably going to do this, or the medic's probably got like a blink here. The more you know about both sides, it improves your game as a whole.
Yep.
And I really think a draft OVD league forces people to start to do that. And I think it'd be really great for the population and for the game as a whole.
I think it would, and I just think that we need the proper captains. You know what I mean? Like, say if 3 of us were captains, and then you got the Dark Slayers team, and who's captain right now? You got Jay. He's a top tier player. If you got Sov to be a captain, maybe Arn, Revenge, Kev, somebody. You know what I mean? I mean, that's almost 10 people right there who are knowledgeable, good at the game, would be good captains. You could throw Jesse in there.
What about our user?
Well, just keep in mind, the more captains you get, you're going further into the pool. Because when I think of a like competitive OVD league, it's probably 6 teams max, each team having like 7 people. Because once you get beyond that in the current community, as you'll see in my own kind of prick rankings, I don't know, man. You're not going to trust a lot of the remaining to put in.
Yeah, that's very true. It drops off real quick. And I mean, even when we had 120, I think it was in Draft League 1, right? Something like that. Those, like, a lot of those people didn't even sign in for one. So, like, yeah, on paper it looked better, but only 80 people like actually played the game. And then you got Draft League 2, I think it was like 85 or something people. And it was the same 80 whatever people, minus 1 or 2. Like, I joined and I didn't play Draft League 1, and like maybe another guy dropped out, but it's the same. Like, there's only so many people that play this game. It's the same group of talent. So you're probably right. Like, maybe if we did, teams of 7 or 8, you might be able to squeeze a couple extra teams, but you're probably right on saying 6, especially if most of the talent has gone to captains already, which something we're going to talk about in a little bit too. Like, that's the case again. I want to say with this iteration of Draft League, I like that it's 2 captains starting, so at least you got you and a guy who you trust in case you can't make it, or like, you got a guy for O, you got a guy for D to help you lead. These captains get to pick their second captain, so it's kind of good that way. You're not totally left to dry. Like, I probably wouldn't want to be captain if I didn't get to pick, a co-captain to come with me. So like, I got Jesse, so someone I played with on Newfie forever. He was co-captain. He's a good bud. He knows the game. He's good at the game. I know he's going to do good. He's able to help people, teach them. He's solid on defense. If I'm on offense, like, I know I got somebody there. So like, that to me is is way better. Like even when I was playing with Pizza Rats, if I didn't have Joe giving spec info, I don't think that I would have been near so comfortable with nobody, because like our defense didn't really talk. You know what I mean? Like Joe did the talking. So
Yeah, for sure.
it's good that you get that two people.
I think it's a really good incentive because, yeah, it was pretty quick. People are like, yeah, I'll captain because I can bring someone with me. And I'd even thought about it. I told a handful of people this, like, maybe I'll go in with Hearth and we'll be the fifth team. Like, I was thinking that for a little bit. But again, I went back to the pool and I was like, man, if I go to the fifth team, then we're looking at each team gets, less top half tier players because it's spread out even more thin. So I backed out of it kind of halfway through. But I do think it's good. And I think it should have remained that way because it has been tough to get people like to volunteer to captain, especially in some events where, in the previous leagues where we've had one captain, the squad's just got like no leadership out of that captain. If you have a co-captain, like there's more directive to have leadership and whatnot. Like someone's gonna help out. You're gonna have something going in the right direction. You're not gonna have these squads that literally just log in on Sunday and say, "Oh, what side are we taking?" Like someone's gonna be putting the work in. So I love the idea of having a co-captain in this format. Now,
Well,
in the OVD format, maybe 2 out of 5 is too many. I don't know. TBD in the future. But I think it's really good for the 10-man teams.
Yeah.
I think it's good because for the most part, other than like our user, all the captains are pretty talented at their position. So now you've got minimum 2 talented players on your squad that you can go ahead and start forming a defense around or an offense around. It gives you a good foundation as opposed to, well, I'm the good player and I got to figure out where we're going from here.
Yeah.
I think you're probably right in the OVDL, like 2 out of 5 being too many. I think that there's possibly enough, like if you don't do the 2s, there's only like 6 squads. I think more people would sign up for, like we were missing Kev, Revenge. I don't know where Posty went, but like, we're missing some players who, have a bit of knowledge and played the game for a while. I think that they'd probably come back and play the OVDL if it was a draft league. So, maybe we would get enough people where you can, your first 3 picks are probably going to be like solid picks, and then your last 5 are, mediocre people or people who are not so competitive, which would be great, I think, and it'll be pretty even across the board. But you're probably right. 2 out of 5 is probably a bit much in OVDL, but who knows? I mean, it might work out.
Yeah. Before we move on, I do want to pivot back to Hearth because I kind of talked about my thoughts on OVD League versus Draft League. You've also not signed up for the 10-man Draft League, so pivoting back to you, what are your thoughts between the two?
If you're looking for the reasons why I didn't sign up, it's kind of similar to yours. I'm not going to say I'm quite as much as an elitist brick as you, but
Yeah.
I'm certainly close. Again, it's like I look at the mixes tonight and you just look down at the list and it's like, if this is what I'm going to be playing with in the actual draft league,
Yeah.
it's just not fun. So I have no interest in doing it. But also, like you, I'm more than willing and happy to help out. Like if someone needs some, like, hey, come over, help us practice, or give us some thoughts on this. Hit me up anytime. Perfectly happy to help. But as for actually taking this competitively, because again, I'm like you, I can't just sit back and just say, well, fuck it, I really don't care. Whatever happens, happens. That's not me. I take it competitively in any setting. So I wouldn't be able to just actually enjoy myself. So I have no desire to do this.
I want to say, before we move on to the OVDL stats here, I want to say, like at first, Kelby, when you said that you guys dropped out from like thinking about doing the captain thing, at first I was like, oh, fuck, that would have been sweet. We would have got 5 teams. It would have been 2 solid captains. Maybe more people would have signed up. And then when I looked at the player list and you gave me a reason, I was like, shit, it's probably a good thing that you guys didn't sign up, because it would have been thin, man, like without a doubt. But also too, Hearth, on that note, like I don't think that you kind of can, but I don't think it's so heavily like relatable to mixes versus if you did like the draft league, even if you signed up as just like a player, because you'd have the same people and you would eventually build some chemistry and work with some people to make them a little bit better. It wouldn't just be like random guys not on Discord. So I think there's more to it. You would have a little bit more fun than you would in a mix. Obviously, like tonight was brutal. I couldn't wait to log off. But I think it would be a little bit different. And again, I was pretty fortunate on Pizza Rats, but I enjoyed my time doing that. I'm hoping it's the same this time. I might be saying something completely different at the end of this one, but I think that it would be maybe more fun, and you could get potentially on a decent team. Who knows? But you never know if you don't try. So maybe you'll sign up, maybe you won't. But we'll get into
Albert, I'll live through you on this one. You tell me at the end of this what your experience was like, and well, then you can just tell me whether I was right or wrong.
All right,
Just
so if
real
I have a
quick,
good
Albert,
if
'cause
I have a good time, you got to sign up.
oh god, yeah, Hurt does. I don't.
I'm not
Before we,
doing this without you, baby.
before we move on, we've clearly milked this topic enough, but I do want to kind of wrap up the whole Des and Friends thing. I want to give what may be a controversial shout out to OnlyFrags, not because they built up this fake rivalry we had between us, where I really wanted to beat H4 and I obsessed over it, but for giving us all the practice we got throughout the season. Like I've said it before on post games, like we were lucky to find this sister squad where we had more runs against them just doing OVD stuff than we had in the whole league like combined. So and that was fun for us. Like the practice runs we got between 11 and 2 a.m. Eastern for 2 weeks or something. It was awesome. Like, yeah, we won some, we lost some, but those runs were so fun for us and it helped us build that chemistry we needed for the games that mattered. So I feel like things soured at some point between us and OnlyFrags, but I do want to thank the players for letting us play with them kind of offline, unrecorded, because that was awesome for our team.
Yeah, it definitely made it better than not having any practice at all, or like playing mixed teams or whatever, because they had a solid team, so it's good to play against skilled players for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so we got some OvDL stats here. So basically what you're looking at right now is the defense wins versus the defense losses, or offense wins, win percentage. So as you guys can see, it's pretty close. Like it's 22-16. It's 58% basically. Kelby, give us a rundown here.
Yeah, so these stats were compiled by everyone's favorite person, Joe, and then I'm one of the nerds consuming the stats. So one thing that's not shown here, but I want to speak to is when given the chance, defense was picked by the home team 37 out of 38 times. So when we have this recurring conversation about, oh, is defense or offense harder? I've never thought it's really a discussion. Like I think defense is easier to play in this game, whether it's 5v5 or 10v10, because you have like the passive medic support if it's playing that way, or the Hertz support if he's just a carry medic, and you have a whole set of turrets behind you when the game starts. So all these people saying like, "Oh, it's easy to play offense. You just slam your face on the keyboard and walk forward." The stats have never shown that. I feel like logic doesn't show that. I think offense is hard to play. I usually play offense, especially now. Back in the day, I played defense. But like when I slipped into playing DMP, even next to Joe, and we didn't talk much about Joe, but shout out Joe, not only spec info, but solid call info with direction. Like it's just a lot easier. There's less to control when you're on defense, whereas when you're on offense, you have a limited health pool. You're controlling your inventory. You only have so many seconds to get the important things done. Like I don't know. I've always thought offense is harder, and it's cool to see the stats that kind of reflect that as well.
Yeah, and it definitely is harder. Like I played both. I mean, I still play both. It's harder. It's everything about it is harder. You're trying to push into 5 people with turrets versus standing still with 5 people in turrets and heals and everything else. Is not. You can make more mistakes on defense than you can on offense and still be successful, in my opinion.
Well, that on defense, you get the luxury too of saying, okay, I can put myself in this position to deal like a lot of damage or kill somebody, and I can sacrifice 40 HP because I know I'm going to get it back from the medic. On offense, you don't get that luxury. You lose that 40 HP, that's it. It's gone. So there's way more pressure on offense to be efficient, and you can't really hide on offense like you can on defense.
Yeah, I agree. Especially if you have like a lesser talented player, it's a lot easier to hide him on defense than it is on offense, in my opinion.
I think the most famous positional example of that is a call inf at D6. You can get a lot of players to play call inf at D6. Those call infs cannot translate to offense at other bases. And like I'll pick on Joe because he's one of our buddies. I don't want Joe playing offense with me because he doesn't have that player control, the awareness of spiking at the turrets and whatnot. But he's really like knowledgeable about playing passively, falling back, understanding when he's anchor. Like it's just a lot easier to adjust to that fall back and let others do the work style of defense. Whereas on offense and a lot of offensive lineups, there's 3 of you up front and you need to make a play. On defense, in a lot of bases, you never have to make a play. You can just play passively and wait for the offense to mess up, and they'll either die to the turrets or the MML spam or something. That doesn't exist on offense. Like you've got to go out there and outplay someone in a very quick scenario.
And offense needs the communication because the OMs can't all be looking at each other like, well, which one of us is going in first? You need to be able to communicate, okay, I have 3 reps, I have the charge, I have the geysers, I'm taking the point as we're rounding this corner, and who's setting up on top, who's behind the boxes protecting the heavy or whatever. It's much harder than it looks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just to touch on some of the bases really quick. I think overall we've all known that Titan's a stronger side of the map. And there's been discussions for years about retaining home field advantage, which used to just be D6. But now that F4, which I think recently moved to E6 or something, I'm sorry if that's not the right coordinates, but it's on the bottom right of the map. That is a very strong long base. And in most scenarios, it's stronger than A6 because the medic can chase. If you watch any of the VODs uploaded, just watch Herthbul play medic at that base. He can chase out, keep the SL TD'd forever. Whereas at A6, they get that window where they get out the elevator, then the SL's walking up for something like 3.5 to 4 seconds to catch them. So I think these long bases are really strong, and this does reflect that. We understood that like on our first practice. We hadn't put too much thought of it before the OVD league, but as soon as we got that one rep with Herth, it was like, oh, we can play in this style and utilize Herth as a fighter who has TD on the SL and make everyone's life a living hell. And that plays out in all the videos we played at that base, except the 4JT nightmare that only frags threw at us. Not too much to say on H4, right? That base has gone through hell. I shout him out on the podcast before. I'll shout him out again. I think only Frags really mastered that base in a short time. So X5, Chucky, Tyrael, Galaxy, and Chompy. And then I don't know if Metal was Spec and Foe, whatever they had. They were the best defenders of that base, and there's nothing wrong with that. They did a great job defending it. I wanted to crack it so bad. Everyone here knows I did, and we failed, so that sucked. But other teams have tried to defend it, and it's not the same. Like if you're not replicating that mastered setup, understanding the accurate turret placement, or prior to Joe's map changes, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a second, just the lineup of the turrets, how the JT plays, how you can utilize the lip at the bottom. If you compare their VODs to the VODs of the other two teams who tried it, which I think was Matt's squad and then Frank's squad in the finals, they do not play it the same way at all. And the results kind of show that as well. We were able to identify that very quickly in the games and really just obliterate them. So shout out to those guys. They mastered the base. They dominated at the base, and they made a funny video where Matt's obsessed with the base. In actuality, I'm the most obsessed with the base. But I didn't want it nerfed so bad. I just wanted to fucking beat it.
Yeah, we're all losers here.
Yeah, mainly me.
I kind of hate how, A5, A6, B6, even kind of D6, they didn't really get used a whole lot. It's kind of shitty to see that, and I wish we could have seen it more. Someone brought up the idea of doing like a veto system, so like you vote out maps. You can play one map around or something, or you can like choose to not play like each team chooses not to play a map, which a lot of other competitive games have, whether it's like characters or heroes or bases or whatever. I think that would be something that would be cool to add into OvDL, because then you're kind of like, it's more strategic and you're kind of forced to play other bases as well. So, that's something that could be cool to get these bases more like in the mix. But in saying that, there's also been some map edits that have been brought up. So maybe these will help, utilize these bases more. I know I played A5 tonight, and the defense won against I was on offense, defense won. We got the turrets down a few times, but I feel like it may be a little bit stronger. I'm not 100% sure. It's you obviously more than one run in it. But Kelby, take us through these changes. Like maybe give us your opinion on it too, if you think these changes are enough to make these bases be used.
Yeah, so really just looking at the first two from the defensive side, as a self-proclaimed, if I can play either side. I like the changes a lot on A5. I actually wanted them before the last league we played. I hated that big white barrel because one, it's clunky, and two, it mitigates the medic's push-out power, especially when compared to D6, which is obviously the superior base. It's got a switch. Its TD range is so hard on the SLs to play around. But at A5, like these SLs were backing up to the top, and then the medic could not catch them with TD range because that huge white console was blocking them or whatever in the middle room. I think it's great that it's gone now. Doesn't move the needle on the base, probably a little bit. In my opinion, not enough to make it like comparable to D6. D6 is really just super strong as a base of that archetype. The medic's influence on D6 is tremendous, even without blinking. And Hearth can speak to it too. You just push to a corner inside, and you've TD'd like the majority of where the SL can go. They have to expose themselves. That same exposure doesn't really exist at A5. Plus, it being a one lane base for the offense on the other side, it's easier to push. You're not looking at the defense wrapping around you or anything. You can push in a straight line, especially if you're running, anything, power, rush, JT, whatever. You're pushing in a straight line. So you get to kind of dictate to the defense where they're going. Whereas at D6, the defense get that outplay opportunity to wrap around the wall, make you chase them, rush straight to the SL if you fled too high on the right side. Like, I don't know. I don't think it moves the needle a lot, but for a competent group of players, if they end up on collective side and want to play a compressed base, not a heavy base, I think A5 is okay. B6 on the other hand, I've never liked this base. Joe knows I don't like the base. I don't know how you fix the base. It's just it's too exposed all over the place. And I think as an offensive player on this base, I can attack it with almost anything and feel good about attacking it. There's not enough leverage for the defense to push and make these TD plays on the SL still similar to what I talked about at A5, where yeah, we removed White Barrel at A5, so the push out range is better for the medic. That still doesn't really exist at B6. The base is just it's long, and the SL gets all these safe spots at the bottom where they can summon. It's hard to get them out of the base. Whereas at D6 and even A5, an aggressive medic like Herth who pushes without a beacon can flood the SL out. I just don't see it happening at B6. So I don't know. If I'm picking defense, I'm still never picking B6. Any comments on that one before I move on?
So if you're running a 3DM, are you taking A5 over B6 if you're on collective?
100% of the time I am. You're still getting the spawn advantage on defense. Because the same thing I said benefits the offense. When you're pushing out on defense, having that single lane benefits you. And if you're playing with an aggressive medic, whether it's Hearth, Dilatory, Waylander, GT with a blink or something, like you don't want them to have multiple escape avenues. So imagine Albert spawning, he gets that bottom left spawn, he's right there on the flank. That's a huge benefit, just like it was at old F4 new E6. So I think A5 has power to it. I can't identify positives for defense with B6. It's a nightmare of a base, and on 10 man, when you have the fork right before the flag room, it's similar to D6, but without the vulnerability D6 has of, oh, if you push them out at D6, the game's over. On 10 man, you're not pushing them out of B6. It's just not happening.
I feel like the long hallways in B6 make it, it's like almost like a hybrid base between a heavy base and then the top half is like D6, if that makes sense.
But that's what kills it though, because
yeah, it is.
It's like you can't run it obviously a D heavy for half of the base.
Yeah.
No, it just doesn't work. I mean, I actually played D heavy in A5 for like half the run tonight, and he did pretty good. Like, I don't know if it's the more space in that middle room with that white box gone now, but he's aggressive heavy too, so I guess you can't really compare him to like most D heavies, but he played it well.
And moving on to, Des and Friends' favorite base, if you will, F4. I think this was Hertz's favorite base. It became all of our favorite base once we understood how we could all enable each other at it. And again, if you watch our VODs, Designer, who's the best MML heavy in the game right now, was hardly utilizing our defense. So maybe not super fun for him, but part of what we believe was the highest winning strategy was he's pretty much our anchor. And when we have a chance to push, we're pushing with Herth because of that aforementioned TD range. So if you look at our VODs, and I've reviewed our own VODs internally before, we have so much pressure on the SL. And Herth said like, oh, I'm sorry, Bonds. I'm thinking, oh, I'm sorry, Axe. I wasn't sorry. I just thought we were utilizing the strategy better than others. I saw other medics like Bonds and even Dilatory, I think, defending this, especially Bonds, where he would blink, but then give up on it. He would like retreat to the turret, something, and no, you have to keep going. Like keep that SL pressured, even if you're not killing him, because then he's getting attaches, the imps are low, and we were able to utilize the hell out of that. Like Herth is assisting on something like 80% of our kills, which is typically not the case with a medic. But I think it's a really strong base. I still think it's a really strong base, even moved. Sure, the spawn flanks get nerfed a little, but I don't know. I think these medic pushouts, as people figure it out, or if they're listening to the podcast, maybe they learn it via that. Once they figure out how aggressive you can be without having to land every train, just pressure the SL TD, I think you'll see a lot of defenses pushing these offenses out to who knows where.
The fact that it's still an outside base is its biggest power, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And you touched on it, and you're completely correct. As a medic at that base, I'm not even thinking so much, oh, I got to kill the SL. It would be a bonus. Great if I kill him. I just want to keep him TD'd for 99% of the match. That's all I'm looking for.
Dude, you're brutal with that. Like, I played SL now a few times against maybe almost every medic, I want to say. And there is no other medic who will push the SL. Like you'll ignore infantries just to TD me and push me out of the base, or like make it so I have to make people attach. And then at that point, you can only go so far where it becomes, you're gone too far, you're never getting back in the base, or you're using up a minute and a half worth of time. Or you can stay and challenge the medic, keep TD on, not allow you to get a blink, and then, again, people are attaching, burning up jazzers, reps. Like, you're difficult to play against. Not a lot of medics do that. Like, they'll just, even in A7, they'll run halfway down, and then they'll stop. They won't, like, come around a corner to push out to, force me out of the base.
Because you got to think about it as, if I'm forcing attaches, or I'm trying to burn as much of the offensive inventory as possible. Reps and geysers, those are the biggest two. Because I'm pretty sure, as you both play OINF and I do too, like those are the most important things in our toolkit. So the less of those that we have as we get to the turrets, or even not even that close, it just completely kills you.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
I think that doubles back to what we talked about, like having a pulse of the game. And you have that in multiple classes. You understand I don't have to kill a player. If I weaken a player, if I deplete a lot of their inventory, I've won that run. Because my team's respawning in 12 seconds. They can't get to the boxes in that time because our whole team knows the approximate times it takes to travel from the top of the base to the bottom. Like it's all just so coordinated at some point that it becomes as easy as it looks. Like we're all just working on timers and understanding player power that even if they have 4 people walking at Des towards the turrets, we know as they come down, like, oh yeah, I chipped him. I know that he's Kara, so he's probably between 14 and 26 HP. And like we're calling that out. I want to see other people like begin to really understand that. When you're playing offense, you have like a collective power to you. And we got to see it on Pizza Rats a few times. If you remember Albert, our reviews, I said, look how high energy and HP these imps are pushing A6. This is a collective 180 HP between 3 P6 imps who are still at 500 energy. It's going to take a long time to kill them. That's night and day between having one of your imps at 11 HP or two of your imps at 30 HP with no geysers. Like moving as a unit, understanding your strength is so important. It's not just, hey, I got a rip charge, let's push the Reds. Like push for what? Like find your spike and utilize it. That's what teams need to do. And we didn't see a lot of it in the draft league. I know we talked about it and we did it quite often on offense, but I'd like to see people get better at it.
Yeah, without a doubt. And hopefully like people will listen to this and when they get in more of a team or group setting with the draft league that they'll have practices and maybe be able to utilize some of the information that we're talking about here.
Yeah. We even had we have thresholds at certain bases. Like, hey, if I'm 35 HP and I have one geyser, my strength level is like a B. And if I know it's a B, then Herth knows he's going to play a certain way. Like, it's in the details. You can really nerd out to get about this game, understanding when to drop back, when to push, when to suicide. And we just need to see it from more people. Like, if you want to get better at this game, if you want to enjoy the game more and win more, just try to get better at that.
Yep, agreed.
But last base on this, we'll talk a little bit about H4. I've not played the new one. I think it's in. Correct me if I'm wrong. Joe put it in or something.
Yep.
I had posted the suggestions thread a couple weeks ago where before they kind of blow up the structure and everything, I know a lot of people hate the hallway. They hate the lip. They hate the U at the beginning. That's all fine for evaluation. The only thing I really wanted fixed, and I think I got it, haven't looked at it yet, was some of those objects when you approach the turrets, they're defensive advantages that do not exist at other bases on the map. So I called that out. I think they mainly got taken care of after some back and forth with Galaxy and Ant and Joe. I'll log on later and take a look at them. But I'd like to play against the base again and just see, does it feel better on defense? I know that one crate right on the wall when you get to turrets was such hell. Because even if you kill an imp, it's like, oh, I'm going to play the RT game. Never mind, I'm dead because I can't fucking go anywhere. I think that's gone now, so you can actually slide on the wall and drag the RT.
Yeah.
If so, seems great for offense. I think, and again, I'm not part of the league, but I have heard there's some kind of captain's gentleman's agreement. You're not going to play the base. Is that correct? No one's playing it?
Yeah, so, I mean, this could obviously change between now and Saturday when the first game plays. But yes, everyone has agreed that we're not going to play H4 during the draft league and, let it get tested, let it get fixed. And then I guess we'll look at it again in the OvDL league or the next draft league.
Yeah, so that could turn into just a big wait and see scenario, which I think is fine. And I would implore people or encourage people, if it is essentially blacklisted for the draft, I wouldn't spend time working on it even in OVDs. Like work on the bases you're going to play in the draft league so you can figure out little things about the bases, whether you're better at them or you need to improve at them. Like work on your craft in the OVDs and mixes. They're going to contribute to your draft team status. Don't just play H4 because it's fun. And I think Joe's going to hate me saying that because he wants people practicing the base and everything. But I would save that for other sessions. Like try to make the draft league competitive, work on the bases you're going to play. I'd worry about H4 later at this point.
Yeah, we want to see good games more than we want to see all the bases balanced.
Yeah, I think we should get that too in this draft league. Like, I think everybody in the captain's chat is on the same page. So I think, with the captains we have and stuff, I think it should be really good. There's a lot of level-headed guys in there, so I think it'll be great. But with that being said, those are the updates for the map. Shout out to Joe for, putting in his time doing this. He, he works, he's not even at home right now. He's on vacation for visiting his family and stuff, and he's still putting in the time to edit these and help out and stuff. And I think it'll be good once they get some practice and, get buttoned up. And hopefully we get to see more of different bases getting played, especially like A5, B6. Even more of like F6, Axie's favorite base. It'd be nice to see, more. I know I think it was 9 times it got used in the OvDL league, so I mean that's good too. So it'd be great to see even more. With that being said, we're gonna go into the item updates that are put into effect right now for testing. Herth, you want to just run through the important ones here?
I think the biggest one is just going to be the Cutler GL, or as we all know it as the non-bouncy GL. Basically, this is the one that if you ever played Extreme back in the day, basically every captain utilized this with AR. The setup was either AR in this or AR with the one-shot shotgun. Axie's trying to make this, I think, closer to the X values if it isn't already there. Be curious to see if it actually gets used. It gives Foot JT, I guess, additional options, but honestly, the biggest thing that was better about the bouncy GL is just the randomness of it.
Yeah.
The fact that, like, just a random rep from somebody at a bad time puts that GL into the medic or the engineer or the D heavy, kills them, and everything just goes crazy at that point. So I think until Cutler GL gets that, which it never will, bouncy GL still the better way to go.
We seen it.
Yep.
Well, I seen it anyways tonight in an OvD. I think Jay Smoka was JT Foot JT for a little bit, and he was using it. Kelby, I don't know in our mix if they were both using bouncy GL on offense. I was
it was bouncy.
Yeah, so we don't really know yet, but I know that Jay tried to use it and he had to stop using it. I know in public people were using it, and I mean it's just public, but I was fighting against two JTs in A7 and they were trying to use it, and it just I don't think it's a viable weapon. You know, especially when you have the bouncy GL, it's just like you said, one rep, and I mean you could really do some damage. So I don't think it's gonna get used, but it did get beefed quite a bit.
I think it's hard to justify using it for like the weight and inventory slot it takes up. And like you said, if you're carrying this, unless you're on a pack, you don't have the other GL. For the pack JTs, I don't know. I don't play pack JT. Maybe back in X, Chucky used both back in the day. I can't remember. Sure, captains used it, but that's just a different play style. You know, we're a tankier class as a captain with OP energy recharge and whatnot compared to a JT. One of the things like on the bouncy GL, which isn't listed here, and I don't think it was edited. I just want to bring it up. And Tyriel's going to be mad that I don't know this, but I really don't. It bounces like 5 or 6 times. Either of you know the number? Max bounce?
I think it's 4.
No, it's definitely 5 or 6.
I think it's higher than that, Alb.
It could be.
I don't know. Let's say it's 5 or 6, and if it's 4, then good job, Albert. I know there was some talk about like that's really the part that gives people headaches because you can miss, it can come back and miss, then it comes back a third time and misses, and on the fourth time it's just like God damn, like there's no weapon as forgiving as that. And we can talk about PC or something, but it moves at a much slower rate, and you can't like charge its velocity in the way you can the GL.
EB's that forgiving and better.
I mean, yeah, EB's not a weapon though. I'm not going to classify it as a weapon. It's the best item in the game, not a weapon.
I think what makes it even like better is that not only can it do that, but you can have 3 or 4 or 5 of them doing that at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's
hard. I'm not calling for a bouncy GL nerf, not at all. I still think it's an underutilized item. And Albert, who has spent an embarrassing amount of time with me, both prepping these podcasts and recording the podcast with me, knows I'm always advocating to find a way to get a Foot JT on offense because I think it's so cool. I still want to see more of that. If it's 2 Foot JT, great. If it's 4, great. Stay off the packs, Dark Slayers. That was not fun for me. But yeah, I think it's cool. It's annoying to play against, and if enough people play it, maybe they'll realize like this is a little bit much, and they've reduced the bounce by 20% or something. But whatever. I think it's a cool weapon. I don't think the non-bouncy one's going to get a whole lot of play.
No, for sure. I think other than that, for updates, it's just like a couple things been cleaned up with reduced reload times and like partial reload times, which probably shouldn't be in the game anyways. And then obviously the double shot AC, which I don't see being viable, but again, it hasn't been tested yet. But for the most part, like, it's good that these are happening to make things more useful in the game and like, kind of change the meta a little bit and just make it more refreshing for people. But, I'm excited to see like other weapons getting used. I know like RR is probably not going to get used in any competitive play whatsoever, but, people are using it more now that it's a little bit, more forgiving, and you can rep after you shoot one. You don't have to wait 8 seconds and stuff like that. So it's good to see like these changes being made. And also, shout out to Axie for putting the time to do this and like test it and tinker with it and upload it and stuff. Him and Joe are really doing a great job in our league with this stuff. So shout out to those guys for sure. Anything else you guys want to touch base on with the items?
I just want to again shout out Axie because I know this is item balancing is very hard. Because an item might be super strong at one base and completely ass at another, or it might be good with one offense and completely horrible with another. So trying to find that situation where like, hey, this is the balance change that makes sense and doesn't make it overpowered in scenario A. it's very hard to find that middle ground. So it's going to take some time, especially just with these little changes, but it's the right path to take. And I'm glad he's putting the effort in for it.
For sure. All right, so next topic, last topic. This is the juicy part, in my opinion, the part I've been waiting for. We got a little player evaluation of Draft League 3. Obviously, if more people join the Draft League, they're not in here right now. We are recording this. It's Monday night, 1 a.m. Kelby's favorite time. Keep me up.
But, this takes an hour.
Yeah, this might take an hour, but this is going to be good. Again, if someone joins like from now to the time the draft happens on Wednesday, we're not going to have them in here. We're not going to be able to talk about them, but this is everyone as of right now who is signed up. So I'm not going to comment on any of this stuff. I'm a captain in this draft league, so I don't want to give my opinion on anything at all. I don't think it's proper to do that, so I'm going to let Kelby and Herth take it away. So again, this is player evaluation, and have at it, boys.
Yeah, so I mean, before I mention I'm an elitist prick, so if you're offended by your rating, I really don't care. It's just data to me. We did get the draft order. It came in just now. You mentioned it's like 1 a.m. local time in the fake Newfie time zone. It's 1:30 for us. So I do want to go ahead and release that on here. So with the first pick of the draft, and we're not going to do any player projections of the draft, it's going to be Albert's squad. They landed the first pick.
Go.
Yeah. Ugh.
Where is this?
Andrew, that guy that never shuts the hell up, he's spamming me about it right now on some other Discord. And I think Soup posted it somewhere. RRU squad, Stonecutters, they landed the second pick. Bonza squad, Haters, got the third pick. And then Smoka squad, Black Sheep Wall, landed the last pick. So I don't know what the rules are around trades and all these things. I'm guessing there's not trades because it's only 4 teams. But if so, I'll go back and say I was wrong. But yeah, so congrats. Good luck with your picks. I'm not going to say draft this player. I'm just going to say if I was captaining a team and I was looking at, this is my evaluation of the player. Herth and I put this together maybe a couple hours ago or something. So we've got our own ratings. Some are different. Some of the comments are different, but we'll just kind of go back and forth on what we think of these guys. So I'll kick it off right away. We've got, and again, no order to this. You know, you'll have your tiers, your numbers. Just because Albert's the first one doesn't mean we think he's better than the other 5s in this group. It's just they're all grouped together. So I've got Albert as 5, which is our highest rating. For scaling, 5 is great, 1 is not so great. I've got Albert estimated to play NG or INF, depending on what's needed for a squad. In my own little personal notes, I mentioned that he is the most experienced captain in this draft. He offers multi-classing and can fill in pretty much any needed position on defense or offense. Anything to add on that, Herth?
I like playing with Albert. It's nice to actually have played with him for once, and I completely agree with that assessment because I also gave him a 5. And it's nice to know that you basically have the guy that took Newfie, a squad of, well, not really named players at the time.
Garbage.
Absolute garbage. And he took them all the way to the championship.
Twice.
They never beat anyone noteworthy. I wouldn't even bring it up. Let's move on. So next we have Axidus at heavy. So Axie, I mean, he's come up a long ways. I don't know if you guys remember me nerding out over him in the first draft. This guy was playing O heavy in the first draft. I was like, man, if this fucking guy would set up on turrets, he'd be something special. Then he's suddenly setting up on turrets in the following weeks. Now he's moved into one of the hardest D heavies to play against for power offenses. He plays an aggressive D heavy style with stub cannon that others really just don't play so much. Beyond that, he can flex into like OM for SL if needed. And as he knows from captain experience last season, that may be needed depending on who shows up and doesn't show up for the games. But yeah, I think he's a solid pick, especially if he gets to play heavy. He can really anchor on any defense and be a solid member of it. Herth?
It's going to be interesting to see Axie in the draft league because especially on a 10-man, this guy, he loves the swing as the D heavy.
Yeah.
I've seen him pick up HPC and suddenly he's on offense. And it's like, okay, I haven't seen this before.
Yeah, without clearing.
Yeah, without even clearing. He just
Yeah.
shows up on offense. I think Axidus with the right communication in that setting is really going to be great for Matt's team.
Yeah.
And Matt is our user who I really hope loses, but Axie's going to do his best to make sure he doesn't suck.
Yeah, and Axis is the co-captain of that team, so he's got some say in how they assemble the roster. Him and Matt have actually developed a nice little duo similar to Bonds and Tactical, who we're going to get to, where they've played a few games together now, a few leagues together, and maybe we just see this duo for a long time. Who knows? But okay, moving on to designer. So we all know Dez. When we talk about Dez and friends, it's really designer and friends. We both gave him a 5. Dez is, I mean, he could have an argument for being the best support at any of the 3 primary supports. Probably not Medic because of Hearth, but
Or SL.
Well, whichever.
Or
He-
engineer.
He's just really good at the
He's
supports.
really
Like,
good.
I love his supports. He communicates well. He's level-headed, kind of opposite of me. And he also has an argument for the best heavy in the league. We talk about Axis and his threatening style against power offenses. Designer plays a much more passive, watch me unintentionally 30K style, and I'd say he's the most effective heavy in the game against jump JT offenses. Whereas Axie's so effective against power and mass imps that want to run into you and whatnot. Desi's effective, angling himself with accurate MML to stop momentum of JTs, and whether it's an info rush or something, playing the anti-rush flagram style, like he's also excellent. So I think he's one of the best try support players in the game and one of the top 2 heavies for me.
It's going to be interesting to see when he gets picked up by whatever team, what position they actually slot him into. Because, like you said, he plays a much more passive style in all of his classes. He's very good at them, but he plays a passive style, not aggressive at all. So it's nice to see him as like a passive D heavy paired up with a very aggressive medic, for example. Whereas with Axie, it's the inverse. He needs to be paired up with a passive medic because he's the aggressor in that situation.
Yep. Good call out. Moving on to Jay, who others know as Smoka. It can't be said enough, like what a difference maker he is, especially on offense, man. Like I've seen him take some truly bad offenses and just create magic out of it as a fighter class. And it's like he can be an OIMF that just suddenly clears the defense. And you don't see that often across this player base and even historically in PL. I apparently played on BDS with him back in the day because there's video of it on YouTube.
You did.
Unfortunately, I don't remember it, but it shows us storming flagrants with Cypher. So shout out. I guess we did that together. He's really good at any of these 3 fighting classes. Like you get close to Jay, you're probably in trouble. And that goes for anyone. That's me, that's Herth, that's anyone. Like he's scary up close. And I think he has a really good feel for offensive tempo. The thing I talked about before, like he knows when it makes sense to push. He knows when it makes sense to fire at the MG instead of protect the heavy. Like I trust him with all the offensive decisions. And I think before he was paired up with Kev. Since then, as we record this, I think Kev's already dropped out of the league or something. It would have been really cool to see him and Kev, and I assume that's not happening. But yeah, even just standalone, Jay's an exceptional fighter.
It's great because he has such an innate sense of the game. He's not really heavy on the comms, but he automatically knows what to do in any situation. And that's just, you can't speak enough about it.
Yep. And then pulling down to another really good fighter who can secretly multi-class really well, but people don't get to see it unless you play around with us sometimes. That's Ruler, Wolven, Jesse, as we refer to him as. We both gave him a 5 again. He's one of the top fighters. If you get close to him, especially and he's on defense, good luck finishing by yourself. I take some pride in myself in like attacking these 3 inf bases, and I feel like I'm a threat to the DMs when we get to the bottom corner of D6. When I approach Jesse, it's just like approaching Solve. Like I'm not having the best of times, I'll be honest with you. They can just play me into the corner, survive long enough for the turrets to contribute, then I can't finish him. He's so slippery as fucking DMs. And he's also like incredibly talented aiming call when he's running call. So he's one of the best fighters with a shotgun, but we played with him as call a lot because I can't call that well. And this guy keyboards, but it looks like he mouses when he's shooting call. You guys go back and watch the footage of that 4JT offense they threw at us. Jesse is lacing them with like 80% accurate call on a keyboard. It made no sense to me.
It's gross to watch.
It's like, what is with this guy? Albert could deploy him. He's Albert's co-captain. He could deploy him as a utility class, and people don't get to see it a lot. But I swear, Jesse is very game smart. He has the mechanics playing engineer even. Like he can play engineer like Verb, where he's kind of a crazy fighter in their face. Not at this perfectly elite level as Albert, as we'll say, but man, he's a threat. Same thing with SL. Like he can make big plays as SL. So big fan of Jesse's in and out of the game. I think he's incredible and good co-captain for Albert.
I'm glad that he's paired up with Albert since they have that natural chemistry between them. It's going to be a good leadership role. I really can't wait to see who he gets paired up with, assuming he plays DMF, who his partners are going to be, and what kind of coordination, teaching that they get from him, what kind of chemistry. It should be fun to watch.
Yep. And then our last kind of 5 overall, this is ZMN. Everyone knows he's the reason most of us came back. Herth can't believe that he gave him a 5.
I can't fucking believe it.
When we talk about versatility, it's so spiked in this league specifically. And Albert knows, again, we spent way too long doing podcasts about it at this point. People are not going to show up at some point, and to have those players that can sub in at all these different, undesired positions, we'll call it, is paramount. Like it's the difference in Posty squad maybe being champions in the first league and Axis a squad in the second league. Like having someone that can enable your fighters to stay on fighter class because they can fill all the supports is so critical. And beyond that, he's a very competent championship-winning jump trooper on offense. Sure, he can play Imp too. I don't think that's how he'd be deployed, but we did list him as a capable class. But this guy does it. Like, he can play the big support roles on defense that not a lot of people love playing. And he can, quite frankly, lead an offense well enough to win a championship. We just saw it in the last draft league. So, yeah, it may be a controversial take because we all mean when he got picked second overall. But at this point, he's almost earned it. So, big fan.
It's strange to see what classes he's talented at, because normally most people are talented like, hey, I've got the supports on lock and like infantry or heavy or something. But he has JT in his repertoire, which is so strange. And I love seeing him in the pieces. It's his fault that the game's fading because he got his promotion and he's not on as much anymore.
Congrats,
And
Z.
I'm happy for you. I really can't believe I gave him a 5. But it's in this situation, yeah, it's true.
Oh, in denial. All right, so we're gonna drop down. These are kind of the 4s, or as you'll see, like 4.5. Going into Galaxy. So this is kind of a pocket pick for me, and it only became that because of those scrims we talked about an hour ago. I spent a lot of times playing against Galaxy's OMF, and I was DM for Des and Friends. Similarly, I got to play against his DM, and I was OMF. So it wasn't until I got that in-game feel against him for multiple hours that I realized, like, this guy's a monster. And I remember Albert and I talked about him a little bit last league because Axis has drafted him maybe in the first round or early second, but it's a little bit higher than I was expecting because I wasn't so familiar with his game. But when it comes to fighting, like, I don't want to say he's smoke. I'm not going to give him that, but he is really, really good. I don't like getting close to him. He's especially good at managing energy with P6. And we've talked about that before. Like, if you have someone that never dies with inventory items, like they're managing their energy, they know when they need to energize, and it just makes them so hard to kill, regardless of what side they're on. I think he's one of the best fighting of this community. He's also open to ideas. We talked about that a little bit. Maybe not the crazy wild card, hey guys, let's run 3 medics. But like, I think he's adaptable to a lot of different offenses or defenses. So he's someone I would like to play with, having played against him, both in competitive and all these scrims. So I'm high on him. I had him at a 5. Hearth, you had him at a 4. What's up?
I like if I could give him more than a 4, but less than a 5, I definitely would. He's not at that level. Again, like you said, he's very slippery, tanky. It's hard to kill. He just doesn't have that killer instinct for me. Like I'm always when I'm up against him, I'm like, well, I'm not gonna have trouble killing him, but I'm never worried about him killing me in return. Whereas I look at the other OMs like a Smoka or a Ruler, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna have trouble killing them, and they're gonna lace me up too at the same time. I just never got that feeling with Galaxy. Talented, yes, but he's not at that 5 level for me.
Yeah, I think those additional reps we got in the unofficial scrims, no one else saw, but I think Andrew recorded them. I got to go back and watch those VODs again, nerding out, trying to figure out how to get better. And he just like dominated me at the bottom of 4 over and over. I'd see the same thing where there was like Joe, where we had Ruler in for some runs. Like, he's just one of those guys that understands box play, like an Iron almost, but not as like experienced or well known around the community as Iron. Where I respect his O game a lot, and with the community having, quite frankly, weak offensive players right now, I think Galaxy's awesome. But
So
we're
you
not gonna
think
spend all
he's
day
more of
on
an
it.
O player than a D player?
Yeah, I do. I mean, he's definitely, and again, we'll go back to me saying O is a lot harder to play than D. He can play D and be just as elite. But if you're elite on O, I just think it means a lot more than being quote unquote elite on D. And
I
I think
agree.
you
I
are.
think if for infantry class particularly,
Yeah.
if you're a stellar on O, you're just probably good at infantry as a whole.
Yeah. Moving on down, so we've got Bonds. Is this the first medic? Again, they're not ranked in any specific thing. We have
Besides
others in the
Dez,
4
yeah.
category. Yeah. So I used to have Bonds at a 5, and no hate on Bonds, but I talked about it a little bit, like figuring out the proper way to play F4 and even A6. I just felt like he lost it at some point. Like, he's still got all the skill, and I think he makes all the calls and communicates well according to his defense. But you got to turn the aggression up. Like, even if you don't kill the SL on the flank, you got to commit to it. Understand you don't have to be the anchor if your heavy's at full HP in the back of the base. Like, just keep going. Buy that time for your defense. Turn that back up. Take some deaths. Who cares? Like, I don't know how many times Hearth died, but I'm sure it's plenty because he's chasing you guys out to E1. Like, just turn it back up. Just make that adjustment to your game in these long bases. I think you'll be right back at a 5.
I agree. And I'm going to bring up the same point as we get to another medic further down. But the Bonds that I knew and grew up with was more aggressive than the guy that he is now. And unfortunately, in this meta that there is now, aggression pays off at the medic class. So as you turn it down, like controlled aggression, don't go GT, because GT took it to like a 15 on a scale of a 10, and that doesn't work. But you just need to find that right level, and Bonds can definitely turn it up a few notches to get back to where he was.
Yeah, for sure. Coming down to BT, so this is big timer, Ron. This guy's an NG main. We've seen him deployed as call inf before in CTFDL 1, I think, maybe 2. No, I think it was 1. It's Metal Squad. CTFDL 1. Very strong fighter, especially with someone that mains a support class. He's also one of the most dependable engineers in the game. I mean, there's no fault to Ron's game at engineer. Is he as great as Albert? Probably not in my mind, but he's right there. Like, he's solid. I love playing with him. He's fun to play against too. Like, it's competitive. You think he's out of talks, suddenly there's another 100 talks spent rebuilding Reds. I'm a big fan of his. I think any team that needs an engineer is going to be looking at him early.
I love Ron. Like you said, he's just so solid. And the best part about Ron is he's also a great infantry too. So if you're somehow blessed with a plethora of engineers and you need a fighter, BT's right there for you too. He just great guy all around.
Next, we have Axe. I think this could be looked at as, man, you've got Axe at a 4 and only Frag's offense wasn't that great this league. I think that was more just like design and they didn't figure out their offense. I still think, given the community size, he's a solid SL. He seems to have awareness. I know I got to work with him personally with Albert on Pizza Rats at sometimes in practices. The guy communicates really well. He listens. He takes advice. He asks questions. I'm still a fan of playing with Axe. Didn't have his greatest showing in the OvD league, but I would expect to bounce back here in the draft league.
Axe plays more of an aggressive SL style. Like if you said, hey, you got to play with a JT info offense, Axe for me is not the SL that you want with that. You're not using his talents. Plus, it's not in his nature. But you put him with a power offense that knows what they're doing with good communication, where hopefully they're not all dying at the same time and he gets instantly TB flanked and died. He's a good SL. And I've noticed recently, because before he used to play Supercharger, which is not the meta now, not with all the aggressive medics, you have to run NPC or HPC. He's starting to switch into that, and it's really upped his game. Plus, with him playing medic now too, he's starting to learn the other side of things, and he can now use that information on both sides.
Yep. Coming on down to the next 4. So this one's obviously controversial in this garbage community, and he's a garbage person, to be frank.
Yes.
But so Carrot Tank.
CT, yeah.
Yeah. Matter of speech. So this is Carrot Tank. I do think, and I will give him credit where it's due, he is among the top aggro fighting DMs in the game. Now, I just mean when he gets up close to you, he has very good awareness of his own inventory, his capabilities. His generator stays on despite being Kara most of the time. He stems at the right moments. He's hard to take down. I will give him that. But the downside to CT, and maybe we both have him rated too high because of this, his awareness of the game is not there.
Nope.
And there's been times in the past where I've tried to help him with it, like in an OvD or a mix. Like I'll tell him, like, hey man, I think you should do this. And he's the type that we talked about before. He'll argue with me. It's like, nah, Angelus, the reason I'm doing it. And I'm like, dude, I don't care. You need to accept that some of us understand this game better than you. Maybe you're a better dueler. I don't know and I don't care. But like if he would fix his awareness, this guy would elevate. We'd be talking about him like we do like Jesse or something. These hard to deal with DMs, but he's not there. Quite frankly, I don't see him getting there because he's so stubborn. And I'll just put that out there. I would not put him on offense. I think he's purely a DM. When this guy gets on offense, it's like it's just some guy trying to play hero ball. Like he doesn't understand tempo. As soon as they kill a turret, this guy jumps on a flight pack and starts trying to flag it or something. Spams LOL when he dies. Doesn't realize the 36-second cost he just cost his offense. They're getting pushed out because they lost numbers. There's no hold of the boxes. The engineer comes back and builds reds. I see this over and over and over. I play against it. I take advantage of it. Whatever the case. I think he's a skilled fighter, but I'm kind of running out of faith that this guy's going to turn around. I think he's very fixed in his ways, and he's embraced this big troll personality where he's not really going to get a whole lot better.
This is one of those picks where if I could put an asterisk next to it, I would. The 4 for me was based just on his play. Now, once you factor in the mental, it's going to detract from that. It's not going to add. It's going to make it way worse.
Yeah.
On D, if you can keep him alive and he's not running out like I'm the aggro DM, I have no backup because everyone's dead. I don't recognize the tempo. I'm not repping. He's good. But like you said, you can't run him on offense. He's just completely unplayable on that side. And it's a shame because there's talent there, but he just gets in his own way.
Yeah, the guy's like, we're all 40 years old. He's stopping to kill macro. When he does so, Jesse's standing in the middle of his base, killing him, and we flag his defense in 2 minutes. It's on tape, so we're not even memeing about it. Like, that's humiliating. I wouldn't want to be associated with that. So, hate it for you. Wish you turned it around, but I've pretty much ran out of faith. You're a solid fighter, but it kind of caps there.
Voila.
Voila. Coming further down, so dilatory. I've got him at a 4. I'd kind of echo the same comments as Bonds for me. This guy has crazy aggression at times, but then like he'll tone it down at the wrong time and cost his team that push out. But I'll let you expand on it because you're the medic here.
Yeah. I love Dillatore. I love his game. I love Mike. I've played with him for a lot of time, but like I know from experience, like SLing versus him, he's one of those you can kind of get in his head a little. Like you put in one SL blink, kind of like in the first 3 minutes, right? And for the next 5, 6, 7 minutes, he's playing really passive, expecting that next one. You might not even have one, but you've already won the mental game and you forced him back. And now he's not playing the game he wants to play. And it's like for Mike, you just gotta realize, like, hey, I gotta be aggressive the whole game.
Yeah.
And that's the meta now that wins you games.
Yeah,
And Mike,
you're not always the anchor as medic, right? Like maybe that used to be the thing. You look at the Thors of BDS who win all these championships as the anchor, the back line, but like there are more effective ways to play it now, and these guys need to make that adjustment.
especially now that D heavies, there's way more D heavies in the game now. D heavy bases, they're coming back. Those are now being the favorites.
Yeah.
The D heavy now is the anchor. So as the medics now, we have to step and now kind of become that third fighter.
Yeah.
And Mike back in the day used to be that guy, and I want to see him get back to that level. I know he's capable of it. I would love to see it.
Yep, seconded. Coming down, this is a really cool one. This guy never gets talked about.
I
He's
love
not
this one.
super active in the OVD and mix community. I am very high on Mixum, and I don't think a lot of people are. I've played, with him in friendly mixes. I've been part of his squad practices or whatever in the previous draft leagues, or just like to help provide ideas. I think Mixum's a really cool person to play with. He's open to ideas. He's competitive, but also like friendly. Whereas I'm just a competitive jackass. He plays that trifecta again. We talk about the support trifectas like designer or something. Mixon plays all three of those really well. I love playing with his SL. He gets aggressive in D6 and risks it sometimes. Understanding if I say like, yo, back off, man, he'll do it without arguing. But same thing, like his NG seems like he always has a little more talks than I expect when I'm on offense. So it's frustrating. And that's what you want, man. Like I think he's solid. Doesn't get enough talk around the community because he doesn't play much, but kind of an underrated asset in this small pool.
It just shows how good he is at those classes because like you said, he doesn't play that much, but he can come back at random times and he's still almost just as solid as when he left.
Yeah.
So his knowledge of the game, and especially since he plays all the three supports, so he sees it from a better view than the rest of us, Mixum's a great pickup.
For sure. The very next pick, conveniently, it's a similar thing with Cerrito. A lot more people know Cerrito, but they may not play with him or evaluate him enough on tape, like us nerds do, to realize like he's really good at a lot of different classes. He's got very good awareness of like tempo, whether it's offense or defense. He can play effectively as a fighter on either side. I love playing with his O heavy. I think every time I play with him, we end up taking a base down because we get sent to the same page. And it's like, well, see you later, turrets. And you can't say that for all the heavies as we go through this. But I think he's underrated. I kind of think he'll always be underrated because, well, he doesn't talk on Discord. It's just a soundboard meme. But like in game, I PM this guy all the time if we're playing together. He's very receptive to feedback. He'll ask a question for preference. Like I love playing with him. Kind of same category as one of my personal favorites, Chompy, who's not signed up right now, but maybe later we'll see. But yeah, big fan of Cerrito, multi-classer, can fight, communicate, all that.
Love how the guy that started out was basically like Smoker Jr. because he was just another P6 dual RG bot with great aim. And now he's kind of evolved. He's adding more classes to his repertoire. I love seeing him now with the supports in there because he does medic. Hell, he even does SL. And again, he's very receptive to communication. So I think in an organized setting with, hopefully some veteran leadership, giving him good coaching, he's going to really accelerate his game.
All right. Tactical. I've talked about this guy both draft leagues. I love that he's paired with Bonds again. It's the dream team, right? Like all three draft leagues in a row, Bonds and tactical anchoring defense. I love this. I think he's one of the coolest guys to come out of skirmish. Again, he's got that mindset of I want to get better. I'll ask whoever I need to ask, whatever you guys think. I'll try it. I think he's great. The only reason I have him as like a 4 instead of a 5 in the community is there's more experienced people playing that class. Exodus, Designer, they're a little bit harder to play against because they have a really good feel for when they're in trouble, when they're not. I don't feel that as much on offense playing against tactical yet, but I think like his tracing against an O heavy is top tier. He understands like when the O heavy comes up, I need to chase him away with AC or SC, whatever he's equipped with that time. So solid heavy. Apparently Bonds really likes playing with him because, dynamic duo, third one in a row. Let's see what happens.
I'd like to say congratulations on another USL championship, Ernie. You go, buddy.
Oh.
But oh yeah, you didn't watch that, Kelb. Sorry.
No.
But no, I am glad that he's back. I'm even happier that he's back with Bonds. I just like the chemistry between those two. I just like the fact that they keep running it back. Hopefully they win.
Yeah, I love seeing in a match when you medics will fire like kind of just a random drink up the hallway or something. And if it lands, the heavy immediately like magnetizes to the target with
Yes.
AC. You'll see that all the time if you review their game tape. So I'm guessing Bonds is like this guy's tranked. If not, Tactical just has enough awareness to see it. And with his huge skirmish reso, he's immediately switching to it. So keep that up. That's the good stuff that keeps defenses flowing. Next we have Mountain, and this is another like big climber pick where I think he's a skirmisher. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
He
he's a
is.
skirmish guy. He's made this conversion to CTF, and he's very formidable at a lot of different positions here. Now, I'm not going to say he's the best at any of these positions, but having that kind of flexibility and being adequate or above average, it means something, especially in these drafts again. So as we talk about these ratings and stuff, it's in the context of this draft league. So when I look at someone that can play SL, a non-coveted class, and he's a very good fighter in this pool of people at the other core, power classes, I think it's great. I'm a big fan of his.
I love Mountain. He's great. He's just a good, solid fighter, but he also has a good SL game in there too. And he's starting to incorporate some of the, I'm going to call them advanced techniques of the SL. He's starting to learn, hey, this is where I put my TB and I should blink just solo. This is how I'm going to actually inflict damage when I do it. He has the ideas. He just needs the reps to actually kind of flesh it out, get some experience under his belt. Again, I'm really looking forward to this. Whoever picks him up, I think if you give him some good communication and really put him in the right role, he's gonna excel.
Yeah, I wonder if he's been watching some of your SL tape for real, because I've played with him or seen him play recently the past few weeks, and he's making that mid beacon point blank haywire play like more often than not. So we don't see a lot of SLs going for it, but he'll get the offense there, then realize like, hey, if I die here, it's not a big deal. He'll take his blink, make a big impact play on the medic or the imps, and it's like, cool, let's keep it rolling.
Yeah,
So
when the first time he did it versus me, I was like, oh, I'm happy that he's really doing this.
stole my trick.
Quickly put him down, but I was happy that he did it.
Yeah. All right, last one we have in the 4 category, and then following this category, I'll be honest, our comments are going to drop off a bit. We don't have a ton of data on some of these players, so this will speed up as we come out of here. But Waylander, so Waylander, formidable DM, especially in like a 3-inf base setting. Not as comfortable at long base, but still very formidable. One of my favorite medics, and I know I get outvoted in my small group sometimes. Like, oh, this guy's better, this guy's better. I love playing with Waylander's medic, and I hate playing against it. He plays aggro regardless of the basis. He will play a wall and force you to get past him, either swinging wide or using a rep charge. And I love that. It's like this confidence as medics where, yeah, it can burn him, especially if you get blinked on or you just miss the strength and die to an RG. That sucks. But I'm all for it. I love the aggressiveness of a medic. I think he's great. But Herth, you're the medic expert. Take it away.
Nope, love it. He plays aggressive medic to a T. He knows where the limit is. Like if you watch his VODs at D7, he does the same kind of shenanigans that I do. If like you know, he knows exactly where to stand to kind of either put the SL right in the top left or completely jank him, but still being protected. So he definitely knows the ins and out of that. I like his DMF game too. Solid. Normally P6 DMF. Not trying to give his armor away. Sorry, buddy, but normally you are. He definitely excels at DMF more than OMF, but he's solid across the board. He's a great pick if you need a support or a fighter. So it's a great flex one.
I kind of think of him as like Revenge, who I don't think signed up for this. He's like he's solid on D, not super comfortable on O. But like if you have him in D, you're feeling pretty good. Like you're okay with that. And because he plays medic, like I would value him above Revenge.
Way, way above Revenge. Plus he doesn't catch nearly as many RTs as Revenge.
Well, no one does. Shout out Raycon. All right. Coming on down, next section. These are kind of our 3s and 3.5s. Like I said, much lesser comments. We just don't have a ton of experience with some of these guys. So apologies. We're not trying to short anyone, but that's naturally going to happen as this goes further down. Biz, most people don't know Biz. The 3 of us on this call probably know him better than the majority of everyone else combined. Good friend of ours. I'll still say the best info to ever play the game. No offense to Lingo, who I won all these championships with, but Biz was taking this garbage ass offense that Albert put together in Newfie and carrying them to some 5v5 wins. He's a really smart player. He plays info tactically. Like he doesn't have this crazy ability to outduel someone as an info. That's not really his thing. But he just understands like pacing and when to land this key disruptor and then turn that into a pick and then blink behind the medic. Like it's just chaos. And I love the way he plays info. I hope he does get activated and keeps playing. And I hope he gets to play info. He can play some of the other classes like SL, but man, I want to see the best info lace it back up.
And just to throw this out there, he played infill typically on a power offense, not a JT flagging one. So he plays infill very different than, let's say, a Lingo or Rufal, where they're just trying to get the JT in and out. Biz, as an infill, was completely in a tier of his own. And this league as a whole doesn't really have a lot of experience playing against infill because, well, no one plays it unless you're on 10-man, right?
Yep.
And for the most part, we're doing OVDs. We're not even doing mixes. So the inclusion of a guy that, hey, this is actually what I do for a living, it'll be curious to see, especially if he unfades, how much he can bring to an offense.
Yep. All right, coming down to the back-to-back draft league winner, Colossal. I think again, this is Skirmisher. Apologies if I'm wrong. I don't know a lot about Skirmish because I've never
He is.
downloaded the zone. But if you win back-to-back and you're playing in these games, you're not just spec info. You got to be pretty decent. So I've watched some tape on Colossal. I saw him run as a call inf. I've seen him make good swings, assuming someone's calling that for him or anything. But I think he's a solid player. From the feedback I've gathered from a couple of people, he communicates well. He's cool to play with. He's a nice guy. So I've got him up here at a 4. Herth, you had him at a 3. No big deal. What are your thoughts on him?
Again, he's just another solid DM, like Cause especially. So no offense to you Cause DMs out there, but
It's okay.
for the most part, again, I don't mean this offensively, but it's called DM. For the most part, you're just spraying Cause and staying alive. So as long as you do that well, you're doing your team a solid.
Hey, great job, Joe. Okay, anyways.
Sorry, Joe. Mean it.
Coming on down to DB. So this is Thiz, for those that don't know, Dark Bomber from back in the day. I talked this guy up a lot when he was on Axie's team, I think it was, in the last draft league. Albert, I'm not sure if you remember if that team's right. I think he was. But this guy plays a lot of classes. So when I look at him, it's kind of similar to Cerrito, but more on the support side. So I did have him at a 4 because I think he can play all the supports adequately. He is a bit of a wild card, and some people gave this feedback like, man, he tries some crazy shit. Like, check out my MG outside the D6 flag room. Check out my flank sentry, which is leaving my flag room exposed. I'm not all about that stuff. Like, I'm more of a stickler for the meta. But if you can rein him in, have him play a certain way, it's bringing a lot of versatility, which again, it is paramount. Availability, versatility. That's what's won these first 2 draft leagues. So going to the third one, I'm very high on him.
I gave him a 3 though, kind of for the wild card factor, but also just because I've played against him at all these classes and never once where I was like, oh, I gotta watch out for him. It was more of one of those, he's there, he does his job, he goes home, he just kind of clocks it in. I know he can, he's decent at all of those, don't get me wrong, he's serviceable. He's just not one of those where I'm like, wow, I gotta pay attention for it.
Yep, agreed. Okay, coming down, so this is Evade. He just came back. So again, we're recording this on Monday. It's now like 2 or 3 in the morning. Shout out, Albert. You're going to be up all
He
night.
played today.
Yeah, I saw him play today. So assuming he's what he was in summer when I came back to infantry, this guy was pretty solid at DM. Like, I definitely lost some runs because he was holding the D together, especially in these 3-inf bases. And that's kind of a recurring theme where most of the exposure in these games is in the 3-inf bases. Like, given the opportunity, people have taken D6 traditionally. When you put a guy in a heavy base, it is a different feel. You got to figure it out. I'm not saying he can't do it at all, but I only know of him in the 3-inf bases. So I think of him as the same way I think of like the Shadow, the guy that drops plasma mines more than he shoots weapons. Like, they're solid when paired with other imps. I'm not sure it translates as well in a heavy base, but I'm a big fan of his fighting. He's got some dueling to him. I think he's a solid anchor for a fighting class.
I gave him a 3 only because, again, he just came back. So I'm not expecting him to come back at that 4 level. He's very likely going to be back at the 3, which I kind of saw a little bit of tonight. And another reason is, and you kind of touched on it, I think we're going to see a lot more heavy bases this time around. I don't think we're going to see a lot of A5, D7. So his effectiveness in the heavy bases, I don't know how he's going to be able to transition to that kind of playstyle because it is different.
Yeah, for sure. Coming down to Got Solvi, this is a weird one, right? Because just a few days ago, I saw him say, "Sorry guys, I can't make it," and then like 12 hours later, he had signed up. So I don't know what his availability is. I'm not part of the administration, all this that can see it all. But yeah, I've got him kind of the same as Dilatory in my head. These are aggro medics. I just want to see him get more aggro. And I like GT a lot because he's got leadership traits too, where he can shot call for a defense just like Herth can, and usually the call is good. So I'm a big fan of GT. I think he's a nice guy, good to play with, great medic. Herth, you docked him at a 3. What happened?
He hasn't played in forever, so he's probably faded. Even when he did play, though, GT was one of those medics where, on the aggression scale, he was about a 15. So he was again, he can lead a defense, but he's better if someone else is kind of lead it. Like, hey, don't TB into 3 people, or like, hey, I know you have a TB, but the timer means that by the time you TB, you've got 2 seconds before at least 2 imps attach, and you just completely ruined it. So I think as a medic, especially with his playstyle, if he got reps and he unfaded back to his original level, and he had someone holding his leash, he could probably be a 4. He's likely going to come back at a 3, though.
Okay, cool. Moving on, Jouet. Jouet's, I think Jouet was on Leedy, so he's also coming off his championship after costing his team some games with subpar 10-man info play. Shout out on that. He did get it corrected, won his team a championship. Congratulations. I like playing with Jouet personally. He's like, I'd consider him a friend of mine in game. I like playing with his SL primarily. Now, I think he prefers playing the fighting classes, but
He
what I
does.
like about his SL is he communicates, and that's kind of a rarity, especially on Discord, like verbal comms, where if I'm playing offense, he'll tell me like, you may need to attach, or hang on, I've got 4 seconds. Like that's a big difference between someone just spamming a macro saying under attack can't do anything. So I like his comms. I think he's formidable. Again, Herth already touched on call imps. I'm not going to rave about many of you call imps outside of Jesse and Saw who are just dominant with it. But yeah, I like his SL. I think he'll be deployed as an inf if he gets what he wants, but I don't know. What do you think?
I could give him a 3.5. I would. He's very solid. He's a touch above, I think, the rest of the 3s. I like his SL. It's standard. He doesn't really do anything off the wall. He doesn't do any Tom DB flanks like Decker. Yeah, I'm calling you out. So if you just need someone like, hey, to stay alive, do his thing, communicate, especially on offense, he's your guy.
Yep. Okay. Coming down to Cal, this is KAL, not CalNad from back in the day. We mentioned it in the previous draft league. I think Cal's like kind of chompy junior. This guy likes to play OMF. He can also play DMF. He can play SL. He doesn't seem to mind doing anything. Communicates well. Is not the most role skilled player in the game, certainly, but like he seems like the one that's going to learn and keep getting better. And I've heard that not only from myself, but others within our little circle, or even outside the circle. Like on Matt's team, multiple people have said like, yeah, this guy's like fun to play with. We enjoy playing with him. He learns. So big fan of his. I've got him at a 3, kind of right in the middle. I'd love to play with him if I was playing, but what do you think?
I agree. I think he's on the top end of the 3s. He definitely shows the willingness to take in stuff and try and absorb and get better. Because remember, Cal, when we first started back and he actually came here, he was definitely not at the level that he is currently. Hell, he played infantry and a not great one at that, to put it kindly. But he's definitely upped his game. He's serviceable now at infantry and SL. Great to see both.
Yep. Then we go into Knight, also known as Joe or Shadow. Correctly. Okay. Yeah, DMF champion Joe. So he has taken a liking to DM suddenly. He likes playing call imp. Plays really well with a leader, whether it's me or Jesse's telling him what to do, just anyone shot calling for him really well.
Yes.
He's also not memeing, the best spec info I've ever played with. Like he's the one for CTFPL. And we've said that on previous podcasts. Like that's important. He can also play med. I don't think he likes playing med so much. He's dabbling in SL a little bit, maybe part of Hertz stable. We'll see. I think he's going to be a call imp for someone. Whoever it is, you're getting a good guy, good player. He's not going to outduel everyone or anything like that. He's not going to hold you together if 4 of you die and are dead forever, but a solid partner to play with call in the back.
I like Joe a lot because he is kind of the definition of, let's say, like a steady Eddie.
Yeah.
He's great communications wise. He will do exactly what he's told. He has great game sense. He'll even throw out like, hey, you sure you want me to do that? Because the game sense is this. I should probably be doing this instead. Again, not supremely talented. Then again, he's just another regular call DM. Sorry, guys. But overall, again, a solid pickup. And if you definitely want the best spec info in the game, he's your guy.
Yep. Coming down to Abath, this is another, utility multi-classer. He can adequately play any of the 3 support classes that not a lot of people like playing. I think he mains as an engineer. I know he played engineer in most of his games in the recent league. I don't know if it's his preferred one, but personal preference for me, having played with him in OvD's mixes, I like his SL. Similar to Jouet, this guy will communicate with me, which means everything on me to offense. If he's saying like, I got you in 3 seconds versus I'm going to die in 3 seconds, like, yeah, it's a big difference. So I like his SL more than I like or fear his NG. But I would assume he gets deployed as an NG because I think it's his bane.
He knows the basics of all the 3 classes. So if you're just kind of like, hey, I'm missing a support, pick Abath. He's going to be able to fill into that slot and be serviceable at all of them. Is he going to be your star player at those positions? No, but he's a great filler pick.
Then we have Andro.
Do we need to talk about gravity charges?
No.
Okay.
It was really funny when he just popped off mute one day after a year of not saying anything. He was like, "Hey guys," and he asked a question like, "Who the fuck was that?" So that's Andro, if you're ever wondering. He's another call imp, right? Let's call him a steady Eddie at call. He also likes playing OIMP though, and I mean, you got to take the results for what they are. He played into bonds and tactical, and he rolled them with me, Albert, and Grump. That's just facts.
That is
I
facts.
think
Hard facts.
he's a good OM when surrounded with leaders and people that like can make the right call for him. He's not going to like change your offense into this elite unit by himself. Uh, he is willing to put the work in, though. I mentioned it before. Like this guy may put more hours into studying or working on his game than anyone else in this whole draft because he did with me during the OVD league. So shout out for that. Steady player, good at multiple roles, fits on any team.
Best part of it about him is he will ask a bajillion questions to try and really figure out from every facet, hey, this is what I should be doing and why I'm doing it. So it's great to see someone take the game kind of like he's studying for it and actually taking it really seriously.
Yeah. Coming to attempt, this is an SL imp who very rarely is sober. Uh, when he's not sober, it's kind of wild card. He may go 0-29. When he's close to sober, he may go 19-19. He's an aggressive SL. I'd probably pick some of the other SLs before him, but he can also play imp and fight a little bit. So kind of a depth player in my opinion. Related to Rocky somehow or another. Thinks he is Rocky, but is definitely not Rocky. Shout out Rocky if you ever listen to this. But
Love you,
yeah.
Ryan. Miss you, baby.
Yeah, he's out there.
Yeah, I agree with you. A temp is not somebody that, hey, if I want an SL or an infantry, he's not going to be your first pick. He's kind of probably be your, well, we need someone for this role, and he's the top one left on the list. Because he's just, I just don't have faith that he's going to show up to every game and give 100%.
Yep. Coming down to Bell, for me, I'm not trying to be a dick or anything. I think he's a little overrated in the remaining community because every time I hear about him, it's like, oh yeah, this guy's elite tier, aggressive DM, like he's a game changer. I don't see that or feel that when I play against him. He's just kind of those middling. I like to use Carapace DMs. I don't see him controlling tempo or getting these great respawns or anything. I actually think CT is a better fighter than Bell is, so kudos on that. So I think he's serviceable, but I don't think he's like I don't want to build my defense around him. That's what I'd say about him, especially with these Kara imps. Like you got to have a little more awareness and more tape out there that shows like, yeah, I am elite before we can make all these claims that he's elite. So I've got him lower than a lot of people. I've got him at a 3, but what's your take?
Basically the same. He's one of those imps where to other imps at the same level, they're probably thinking, oh, he's actually really talented. But once you get to the upper echelon where it's like, hey, we know how to deal with Kara imps. They're not as hard as you guys think it is. He's just a 3, guys. Like once you know how to kill Kara, they're all the same.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, coming down to Decker. So we're all decent enough friends with Decker. Decker is, what does he say? He's friends with everyone or something. He's another kind of utility guy. He likes to play around his fighting classes. I don't think he'll be drafted to play a fighting class. Yeah, I think he's kind of in the middle, right? Similar to Abath. I may like Decker's engineer a little more than I like Abath's. No offense to either of them. And then maybe on the other hand, maybe I like Abath's SL more than I like Decker's because Decker has some of those crazy SL blinks that Axe does, but Decker does not seem to get away with it. I think at this part it's more of an infamous blink where he clears his offense. So
he's more known for his bad blinks as opposed to his good ones. Yeah. Sorry, Brian.
It's just from tape review, right? Like you look at the OvD league, you guys had D6 in some of these games. You're like, I got a crazy blink. You get cleared on the blink. They rebuild turrets. Like, what the fuck was that? Damn it, Decker. But cool guy, great to play with. He's dedicated to the game and whatnot. So I would definitely like to play with him if I was playing. Not the best at anything, but solid at a lot of things.
Agree. Nice guy, solid, decent pickup.
Ghost Bomber. This is an old player. I remember Ghost Bomber from our moonshine days of CTFX. Again, 14-year-old kids covered in acne. Ghost Bomber's a name that comes to mind for me. I don't think he was on our teams a lot. Maybe he played against us or something. But I think he's a little underrated by the community on offense. I've played with and against him. He can play Inf. He prefers P6. I'll call that out. He can also play SL. And again, there's a communication factor that he can offer on Discord of, yeah, I got you in a second, or I can't get you right now, or I took a bad death, whatever the case. I wouldn't hate playing with Ghost Bomber, assuming he's got good attendance. I think he's one of those good middling players that it's not bad to be surrounded by.
Completely agree. Especially, it's rare to find an OM that's good with P6 and energy management. So he's definitely a great pickup.
Yep, that takes us to Grump, also known as Doc. I talked about him before. This is an X legend as far as I'm concerned. My favorite engineer from X when I was a kid. He's now playing heavy in these leagues. He's the only person to win in every league of free infantry or something. It's like skirmish, draft, and OVD. So the triple champ. Let's go, Doc.
Let's go, Doc.
Again, I'm going to speak for him. He doesn't play a lot, but if we're talking a results-oriented business, he's partnered with me, Albert, and Andrew on that same offense, and we're rolling bonds and tactical. He can play well, again, if he has leadership and a little bit of this is what to do, when to do it. He plays heavy, which is a kind of sidecar class at times, where if we create enough space for him, to set up, let's go. Either mouse or zoom in, take the turrets out. I trust him to do it. Also, I mentioned it for Joe too. This guy's spec info is unbelievable when he's not muted. he's got eyes on everything you need eyes on. I guess even when he is muted, he has it too, but we can't hear it. Only he can. So I'm a big fan of Doc. Herth, what do you think?
Definitely specializes more on O heavy than D heavy. And his strong point is actually knowing when they hit the boxes and start setting up on turrets. He's got RPG, but I'm not gonna say the biggest aim. So
Sure.
just take that as a factor.
Next one, we've got Infinite. This is kind of a weird one, actually.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, for that reason, among others, maybe. It's weird because he hasn't played much lately. It's also weird because he's just a weird play style. Like, he's playing Minecraft more than he's playing infantry.
He's just a weird guy. Let's just call it. He's a weird guy.
And you can win with it. Like, a lot of medics love playing with Infinite. I think Bonds is on record saying it before. Like, man, my Salvi is always at 150. You can win with Infinite, but like, you have to adjust your play. Your defense has to understand you're down a fighter at all times, but you're up like maybe deluxes because you always have Salvi. But also, his SL, aside from when he dips into the fucking caves to go mining and pulls the offense out, he can play a draft league SL adequately. I've seen him do it. He's been on offenses that have won and whatnot. So I don't hate Infinite. It's a very different style than every other engineer in the game.
Yeah, basically, if you pick Infinite to be either your engineer or SL, you're going to have to completely change whatever style you're thinking to him. So he will dictate how you play.
Yep. We're at metal now, so bottom of that row, we're going to keep going. I've got metal kind of in the middle again. I remember metal as Sinage from CTFX. I don't remember a lot of metal in PL. I'm not trying to be a dick. I just don't remember who we played with or if we played, whatever the case. He's kind of in the middle, similar to that Bale area where like he prefers to play Kara. He's probably better with a shotgun than he is with Call, but he's not like this big feared DMF. I don't know if I want him as my DMF number one on a defense. So he can function really well in the 3-inf base, lesser in the heavy bases. So serviceable, but I don't think I want him as my top inf on defense.
Completely agree. Yeah, 3DMF base, he's decent. Like he's never going to be your number one, but with the D heavy base, where the more pressure is on the SGDMF, I'm not sure he's going to be your star player.
Yep. Mike Jones. I actually like Mike Jones a lot. Now, Mike Jones is not the greatest player, like at any class. He can play heavy too. I should have listed that. That's my fault. He can play a little bit of heavy based on the pub fun we've had. But he's been on squads before. I think of Mixum squad back in the first draft league, I think it was, where like he's on offense and they're beating up the Tyrael squad. They ended up winning the championship in the game Flare missed. Like, I've played with Mike Jones a couple times in mixes and OVDs, and I think I said this last draft league too, so apologies for reiterating it. He's one of those guys that listens and he'll ask some of the questions. He doesn't play a whole lot. I think it's like a work conflict where he can't play late at night where most of the competitive play happens. But I like Mike Jones. He's one of those kind of middling OMs you can throw into offense, or he can be like a second DM on defense, whatever. So yeah, I like him. I think he's cool. What do you think?
I like Mike mostly because he takes the constructive criticism and actually applies it to this game. So he never really takes anything like, "Oh, I'm better than, I don't need your help." He's more than receptive to whatever you throw at him.
Yeah, for sure. Coming down to 1, this is another kind of middle player for me. I think, again, this is a skirmisher. Maybe he's super elite in skirmish. I have no idea. Aside from learning that Tactical's a champion, I don't know much about skirmish. Solve's got 38 championships. So 1, he's kind of got limited exposure to CTF as far as I can tell. I did see some tape of him playing in the previous league. Seems to us listen well enough based on the one person that gave feedback on him. But I've not personally played with him a whole lot, so I don't know. He needs more opportunities. If people are saying he listens well and he's trying, I can't fault that at all. So I've got him in the middle.
Same here for me. I mean, he's just, his knowledge from skirmish enables him to play infantry at a standard level. That's exactly what he is.
Polaris, a lot of people don't know Polaris. So we talked about Albert's Garbage Squad Newfie in the past. Polaris was their call in, paired up with Jesse or Wolven. So I'm just giving him the benefit of the doubt here. Despite him hardly playing in the past 20 years, I assume it's, he's going to play call imp probably on some squads, going to fit like a glove. He'll get right back to it. I think he's just another one of those call imps where you can plug and play him on any defense and kind of get the same results. So middling call imp, cool guy, a lot of fun banter with him. We'll see what happens.
Yep. If Polly comes back and he's as good as he was before he left, yeah, he's a standard DM. Great on Newfie. He's nowhere near that level, but he'll be serviceable when he comes back.
Yeah, then we come up to an RR user, as we all know, is Matt. And Matt is the last captain we're going to talk about. The rest we've already got over. I think Matt's the only 3 we have, and it's not personal. But it's funny because
for me.
I made these notes before I talked to Matt tonight, and Dez or someone brought up, like, there's all these players who think they're better than they are. And Matt was like, yeah, I'm one of them. I think I'm better. I didn't know. I know I'm not that good, but I think it. I had already noted down, like, that's my summary of Matt. Like, he thinks he's one of these top players, and like he said, I'm a top shot caller for offense. The results just don't show that.
Nope.
I think a lot of times Matt knows what to do. I don't think he's the best communicator, and he's not like mechanically the greatest player. You know, I throw up some video where he's failing a turret drill that I've got Andro dominating, but I don't need to. Like he's adequate and he wants to win. He's just not as good as he thinks he is.
It's such a shame too because he has so much passion. He just can't translate that into skill.
Yeah, he's a scumbag too. But let's move on. So Sabo, this is another skirmish convert. I got to see a lot of sabotage with Pizza Rats practices last league. I compare him to Tactical a lot. He's just like one level below Tactical, where he understands moving go heavies. He understands when to use MML. He understands positioning. He's just not quite as quick at it as Tactical is at this point. So I like him a lot. He communicated well. Nice guy. Just needs more reps to get a little better.
I agree. If he played more in CTF, he'd certainly be better at this. At least the rating would be better. But other than that, he's definitely serviceable at D heavy.
And then up next, we have Sergeant Ketchup. You know, a couple of leagues ago, I'd probably say this guy is in the ones or the twos. Like, I don't want to play with Sergeant Ketchup. But I did see him play, and I worked with him a little bit in the last draft league, or like worked with Matt, who was working with him on the same squad or something. He's someone that is trying his best and listens. And given the right offense, he can have opportunities to make a difference, especially as heavy. You know, I talked about Grump before, or Doc. When you take these O heavies, if you put them in an offense that communicates well and has imps who can take boxes, he can take down turrets. So for that heavy position, I'll put him right in the middle.
He actually has surprisingly decent RPG aim, but yeah, he definitely needs to be an O heavy more than an inf. It's like his O heavy's a 3, his inf is not. So if you're gonna recruit him, pick him as a heavy.
And same hit on as D heavy as Doc. Like these guys don't have the awareness of like how much damage they can take quickly, or if they're the anchor. I wouldn't put him on defense if I were you guys, but I would deploy him to offense for sure. Coming up to Shock next. So this is Shock Tarts, who most of us knew again 20 years ago, CTFX, whatever. Recently he's been playing a lot of Inf, mainly in 3 Inf bases. He specializes with call, it seems. I would say though, like his call and shotgun, they feel about the same to me. I think he's got a heavy preference for P6 based on the tape review I've done, the games I've played against him. I can kind of get through him, but at the same time, when we talk about the ceilings and floors of a call imp, he's just in the middle. Like it's this pool of people that like to play with call on defense. He's somewhere in there with the Andros and Joe, you know, whoever else.
He's just another call DMF.
Yeah,
what more needs to be said? Sorry.
Solo camo. This is another one. Like a couple leagues ago, this guy's a 1 or 2. Who the fuck wants to play with solo camo? Well, now it's the same thing on offense. Like I can win on offense with solo camo as long as I can take the box. If I say like, "Hey, come up, take it," he'll come behind me and like he will either he's zooming in or he's mousing on the turrets. You know, whatever the case, he's taking the turrets out. I can't ask more out of an O heavy. So shout out camo. He's definitely come a long way in the past 8 months, up to a 3.
He's another one whose RPG has really improved, which makes a world of difference when you're an O heavy.
Might be in Deza stable, not too sure.
Aren't they all?
Yeah, I think so. Soup, this guy doesn't play a whole lot, but he was playing a lot last summer when I was very active. So he can play both DMF. Again, I think he specializes more in a 3Inf base. He likes to play. Actually, I think he switches armor. I've definitely killed him with shotgun in the past, but he's switched Kara
He's
too.
primarily P6,
Yeah.
but I think he's been Kara a few times.
He's like a willing swap over. If he's playing against an OM who gets his number, he'll swap or something.
Yeah.
He can also play medic. So there's versatility here. Maybe we were a little bit lower on him in hindsight as we go through this. Maybe he's that true 3.5 borderline 4, but I like Soup. Nice guy, nice communicator. I think he's also admin of the league. So if you want to rig something, draft Soup. He can help you out.
I completely agree. Yeah, get on his good side, kiss his ass, and he'll try and help you out.
All right, Thugs, also known as 1992. This guy's come up the boards as well. Kind of same boat as Ketchup and Solo Camo. 92 back last summer was miserable to play with. Like, hey man, can you do this? Nothing. Doesn't say anything. Just keeps going 1 and 30 at the boxes as OM. Now it's a little bit of he's not really, at least for me, he's not like asking me questions or anything. But if I'm honest to him and I say something, he's receptive to like, yeah, I'll try that, or yeah, I can do that, no problem. So that willingness to make changes and whatnot has gone a long way for him. I also think he does have some up close fighting potential. Like I talked about Karatank before, who I think is a really good up close fighter. I think 92's got a little bit of that. So he's on the up and up. I wouldn't hate having him on any team.
He's a really good, I'm not going to say really good. He's a serviceable Kara DM. He actually has some decent killing threat on D. So he's come a long way.
Yep. Trouble, also known as Mystic Gohan. This is another one I think of like Mike Jones. I think they were on a squad together. Again, that Mixum squad with Axis or something in DL1. It's just surprising this guy. Like I know he played on Matt's squad, who I helped a little bit last season or something, or at least talked to him about kind of debrief strategies on. This guy's pretty good. Like he's a good listener. He's getting better and better the more reps he gets as far as mechanically. I like him. I think he's probably more valuable in offense than defense, which I don't say about a lot of people. But just being able to be a complementary piece of an offense, especially if it's someone else's shot calling, which Matt loves to do, even though he's not the best at it. We already talked about. I think he's good. I think you can deploy Gohan as an OM, preferably an O heavy, because again, it's just easier to play O heavy, I think. But yeah, I think he's good. Got him at a 3.
The best part about him is actually they can't play O heavy and OMF. If you look at the other classes or the other people, they can only play one or the other. The fact that he can do both gives you a little bit of flexibility.
Yeah, and in a pinch, like he can play call inf on defense. We've seen him do it in competitive play. He did well, beat some teams with it. So shout out, keep it up. Yosh, maybe the nicest guy out of skirmish I've ever talked to.
Nicest guy.
No offense to the rest of you. Tactical, you're nice too, but I don't know. Yosh is just really nice. The few times I've conversed with him, he'll be the first to admit he's not the most skilled player. He's a guy that loves the game, wants to get better, communicates well. Just won a championship, I think. Pretty sure he was on Leadies. So congratulations to that. He got to team up with Solv, ZMN, those guys, bring one home, maybe looking to repeat. Big fan of his. He just happens to be the last 3 on my list.
Again, best part about Yosh, he communicates, he asks questions and actually takes it and puts it with his game, which that alone just puts him at a 3.
Yep. So coming down to the 2 to 2.5, you're going to hear a recurring theme. There's just not a lot of data on these people, or maybe it's not skill based. There's other things going on. We'll talk about it though. Going to District first. So I listed District as a 3. District is an OMP primarily who prefers P6, and this meta, you've got to make an adjustment in a lot of bases to that. You can't just force P6 into every base. He's got to make that adjustment. Again, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt that he's not super faded from what he used to be. He's more of a shot caller on offense that I trust to make the right call. I don't know if he still has the mechanics to execute it, though. Time will tell. I'm rooting for the guy. He's one of the nicest guys in the community, even though he trolls people all the time. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
I love roaming the pieces, but I'm still giving him a 2. 1, he's faded. 2, he's stubborn, so he's probably going to still try and stick to P6, even though that you can't do that anymore. I mean, the good part is he does have a lot of knowledge. He used to be a leader. Hopefully he gets above it and unfades a little, but I don't know. I hope to be pleasantly surprised. I don't think I will be, but we'll see.
One of you guys that's closer to District, if you're listening, just try to convince him to get a switch macro. Because if you can get District to use Kara sometimes, it's a difference maker. Okay, Genocide. This is Mites, I'm pretty sure. Skill-wise, I've said this forever. Mites is he's kind of that carrot tank thing for skill. Like, this is a very skilled player when he's taking it seriously and he's up close and stuff. I love playing on defense with Mites, and I'll admit it's hard to play against him. After what happened in the last draft league, though, like I did put him down as a 2 here. Something just went crazy, man. Like, I don't know what's going on with him. He kind of gave up on his team and had this whole conspiracy theory that they threw the game for ZMN or something. Big headache for Axie and his team. Then they move on without him. I don't know much. Gang, BDS forever. But if you can't just focus on the game and play at your best, you may not be worth the headache at this point anymore. Hate to say it, but that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I gave him a 3 only because I was just putting him on play alone, not the drama and mental. If I was factoring it into, it'd probably be a 2 or lower.
It's also activity. Like, I don't think Mite's played in the OvD league. I haven't seen him around much at all. Maybe he logged on once or something. I don't know where he is, but yeah, I've got him much lower than I used to. Mite's is generally a 4 for me, and that's just understanding I can put him at DM, but something just wrong has gone on in the past few months with this guy. I don't know what it is. Coming down next, so we've got Jaguar. I had Jag at a 3, Herth at a 2, so he's somewhere in the 2.5 range. Jag likes to play the fighting classes. I've been harsh on his SL before. I straight up have, and I still would be if he'd played the same way. Jag's one of those guys that tries, he wants to get better. He may just be close to his cap, though. Like, once you play this game so much, I don't think you can go from a 2 or a 3 to a 4 or a 5. He may be there for me. So I think he's good, but there's other people I would take before him, especially in fighting roles. And obviously you feel the same way. You've got him down at a 2.
I love Jag. Nice guy. He really tries. I will give him that. But like you said, he might be at his cap. There's just times where I see him on D, he'll strafe into something. He'll just take a bad death. And I'm like, it's killing us right now.
Yep. The next one, this is weird. Spark. I've heard the name Spark for however many years. I haven't seen Spark play the game in 20 years. Like, I remember he was one of those JoJo Man MML heavy D heavies who played with Dark Prince and those guys all the time. I haven't seen him play since then. So I'm assuming, benefit of the doubt here, I gave him a 3. If he comes back and he's the Spark I remember, or like 80% of it, he's probably a 3, like a middling D heavy. I don't know if this guy's even alive though. I don't know if this is a troll sign up or what it is. I've not seen him. Hopefully he's back. He's gonna play some, get some tape on him, see what happens.
I don't. I think even if he comes back, he's probably going to still be faded. So that's why I gave him a 2.
All right. Stasis, I think this is Melantho. So this is a weird one for me. I was never close with Melantho, and that's not like we had beef or anything. I just didn't play on squads with him or her back in the day, whatever. So I didn't know the original Melantho. I've played a few runs with him in the past month or so. He's had pretty decent highs, but tremendously bad lows. So I've got him down at a 2. I've heard that his comms in other leagues are kind of crazy, like a little bit off the deep end. So that's why he's so low for me. Maybe he's trolling or something. He's totally normal when he's an adequate OM fighter, which we need more of, or DM, whatever. But based on what I heard from others who had much more input on it, I've got him down at 2.
I haven't heard about the comms, so that's not part of this. Just on play alone, he's just another standard DM. So you can slot him at that point. He'll do what he does. But as for whatever other drama comes with it, I'm not so sure.
Yeah. Vin, to me, Vin is one of those guys you can plug in on defense, but you really don't want to plug in on offense. So a less skilled carry tank, if you will. There's just, I don't know, man. He doesn't understand tempo or something when he's on offense. He's randomly attaching when you have no business attaching because you've already lost 2 or 3 people at the boxes, including the heavy, and the SL could just free summon to you. Just the same stuff I said about carry tank earlier. Like he doesn't have that flow for offense. Doesn't seem to be the greatest listener I've ever played with. But just on like raw skill alone, if I put him on defense, I think he's on the middle. So I gave him a 3.
I gave him a 2. He's just so random. Like he'll just randomly attach on O when we're more than happy to summon him. He'll come on D, not do drops. He'll just take bad deaths. It's just he's just I know he's capable of it, but I don't think he's really there. Like his attention's not there all the time.
Yeah. Next one we've got Weeb Demon. I think this is this one Eric. I get these names mixed up. You know, I can only say so many times. I'm not a
that's Eric.
skirmisher. Yeah. All right. What's up, Eric? Glad I got that one right. I think I worked with him a little bit in the last draft league. Like he's one of those skirmishers that seems to have the right attitude, similar to a Yosh for me. Maybe not as much experience. I'm not too sure. I didn't compare their minutes or anything, but a really nice guy to talk to. Seems to want to get better and really learn CTF at any element he can. So personally, I'm a fan of his. I've just got him in the middle right now. Like plug and play him as a depth inf player, see what happens.
I just don't see him in CTF. Yeah, he's good at skirmish, but he's not here. So you can't just walk in and suddenly be good. That's why I kind of gave him a 2.
All right. So coming down to more universally agreed upon 2s between the two of us. So Game Freak, this is one of the nicest guys in the community, no doubt. He's just so fresh, man. Like I don't know if he used to play infantry or he literally just started in free infantry a few months or 1 year ago. I think Dez has tried to help him, designer, so he will play MML heavy. I've had some success with him. I'm not gonna lie. Like I can win on offense with him, but I can't trust this guy to carry either side of the field for me. Like as a heavy, I'm not gonna say he's a liability all the time, but playing against him, like he's very easy to kill. He doesn't have the feel of like when he's about to be in trouble or anything. So yeah, I've got him at a 2.
Same. When he was playing like decent hours, I felt like he was slowly getting better, but we haven't seen him in a while. So I'm pretty sure he's probably degraded back to what he was when he started, which is a shame.
Yeah. We come down to Goose. So, and Goose and I, you know, we're buddies outside of the game at this point. This is Doug. Goose hardly ever plays this game. I
Fuck
mean,
Doug.
when Goose played, Goose was actually one of those OMs who I liked when he was leading an offense. Like he understands tempo and everything. He was never, you know, the number one fighter or anything in the game, but a
No.
good verbal leader on offense. He just doesn't play anymore. Like I can't give him a much better rating. The one time I saw him play, I think we got obliterated. He went, what was it, 2-97 or something? And
It
we
was
playing
bad.
turf. I don't know, Doug. If you're gonna play, we'll step it up. But if you're just trolling Albert with a sign up, I don't see this one changing much.
But those 2 kills he got were key kills, and we
That's
just
true.
didn't capitalize.
If we had, we would have won that round. Never
That's
forget it.
true.
I sure
It was
will.
on us. Yeah.
All right, coming down to Head. This is another kind of old player. You know, Head's one of the OGs, I would call it. I remember Head from when I was a kid. He was a PL player and all these things. He's played on good squads before. He's got some leadership experience, even from the last league with the squad, which struggled and whatnot. The draft league, not the OvD league. But again, I never see him playing the mixes or anything, so I can't say like, yeah, this guy's plug and play is gonna be great. It's not on tape, so I can't say it. I think he's one of the nicer guys, but I've got him at a 2.
For the most part, I always remember his head as being in spec. So seeing him actually play, yeah, he's a 2.
Coming down to Maniac, maybe this is the last skirmish player. I don't know. I just don't know the skirmish guys.
It's not. The next
Okay.
one's literally a skirmish player.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so Maniac, I played with him maybe twice. So this is a very like judgmental rating. I didn't have a lot of success with him. Uh, I don't know. He tried to play a WIMP. It wasn't great. We were struggling to push anything. He wasn't really grouping with us, that kind of thing. Maybe he's the nicest guy in the world. I've never talked to him one on one. But again, it's just more reps. I don't know enough about this guy, so kind of a lazy 2 rating for me.
Same. Again, he's just another one of those skirmishers that just doesn't play a lot of CTF. So it's like he kind of came over. It's like, well, infantry's closest to what skirmish is or heavy, and that's what he is.
Yeah. Okay, you're right. The next guy is another skirmish man. I think he's like really good in skirmish. Like he wins all the time with Sav or against Sav. I don't know. I think he's one of the really good skirmish players. I mentioned it before about our user. I've got the same note in my kind of thing for Mecha. I think his ego is better than his play. Like he thinks he's a bit better than he actually is, and that's just me being a judgmental prick. So no apologies, just saying it like it is. I don't think he's that great. I don't think he has a great feel. He prefers to play offense. He likes playing JT, which I love. But like if things are going wrong, he's always like one of the first people to blame something. So it's like, oh man, we're not making any progress because I'm stuck with insert player here. Like I can make a macro out of Mecha saying that. So I don't think he's as great as he thinks he is, and that's why I've got him at 2.
Yeah, Mecca would be better if he one got his ego out of the way, and two, because he plays other classes in Foot JT. He plays infantry and heavy. Foot JT does not work against every base nor every defense, depending on how they set it up.
Yeah.
So I wish he was recognized that and like, okay, my JT's not working. Let me quickly switch to this and give it a shot, as opposed to just, well, eventually GL bouncy will give me what I want.
Just to add on that note, it's not for Mecha specifically, but we talked a little bit before. Understand your own like allies in this one. If you're on an offense with people that don't understand playing with a JT, where they need to increase their drain, knowing that the JT doesn't offer drain, it's a lot harder. Like you need to be with the right group of people who understand it to make this kind of niche pick work. JT is not plug and play like OMF is. OMF works in any offense, honestly. But JT, like you need to understand, it's just different. You need to understand who you're surrounded by. So if you're throwing in your OJT in a mix or an OVD and then you're complaining about your team, I'm not sure it's your team's fault. You may have just misunderstood the situation you're in. So next we have Nightmare. I believe this is Demon Seed. So I can't confirm this. I'm pretty sure this is Demon Seed though. If so, he's another one of those OG guys. I remember him from multiple zones back in the day as a kid. Nice enough guy, just doesn't play enough to get a high rating here. Like he can play the fighting classes adequately. I've probably only seen him play 4 times in the past year, so I've got him at 2.
Same. Doesn't play enough.
Power, maybe same comments as RR and Mecha for me. Like he thinks he's a little bit better than he is, and I may just be wrong on that. Maybe he thinks he's trash. I don't know. But I remember him from back in the day, like multiple zones. I think he was even on Camp Chaos at some point as like a backup medic, or I don't know what the hell it was. He plays like kind of a passive shotgun imp based on the tape that's come out of the other draft leagues. I don't know. Like you need to be able to get aggressive at times, and especially when I play against him, like I don't feel that he's always on his back foot. And yeah, call it a shot fired. Like he just needs to get better at some point.
The problem is, especially your passive SGDM, power doesn't have like the killer instinct.
Yeah.
And especially with the advent of now D heavies, now that's the primary. You can't be a passive SGDM with a D heavy because now you're 2 passives, which doesn't work.
Yeah.
3 with the call DM. So it's going to be fine. It's going to be hard to find a way for him to find a spot on a lineup.
Yep. So last set of players here at the bottom, the 1s and the 1.5s. It's probably like 5 in the morning for Albert. So shout out Albert if you're still alive with us.
Sorry, Alb.
So starting off with Mechanic, this is Sinewave, who we all knew as Sinewave back in the day. I had him at a 2. He's recently taken on a liking to Call Inf, much like Joe, a former medic support, has taken on. He likes playing Call Inf. I don't think he's that formidable as a Call Inf. Like, quite frankly, any capable offense is going to realize he's a P6 Call Inf and just run over him if he doesn't back up fast enough. I think his engineer's still a little slept on. Like, I've lost a run to his engineer before. Like, he can get to the caves, get back and stuff, but I don't think he likes playing it anymore. So for that reason, I'm having a 2. If I was purely evaluating him as an engineer, maybe he's a 3 to me, but because I don't think he wants to play, he's probably going to be an inf. I've only got him at a 2. Hearth, you dropped him to a 1. What's up?
His infantry's just
okay. Okay.
Look, I'm trying not to be mean. It's just
okay.
Okay, let's move on.
All right, P6 call him. Sorry, Soundwave. You're a nice guy though, no doubt. Welsh, no one knows who the fuck this is. I know who this is.
Then why'd you give him a 2?
Because I know him. I know who he is. That's what I'm saying. Albert knows him. I think he like grew up eating Albert's toenails or something. He's one of these fucking Newfie guys that we used to play with, and he'd jump on Ventrilo and annoy the shit out of us. He's a nice guy. He knows how to play the game. I've played maybe 60 minutes of pub with him, so I'd consider myself an expert on his evaluation. If I tell him to press a button, he'll press a button. So I gave him a 2, not a 1. Realistically, I don't think he's played any competitive infantry before, so if he's not paired with Albert, I'd probably steer clear of this one.
He's a 1. He's never played.
Competitive.
Okay.
Shout out, JD. I hope you're listening. Doris Burke, I mean, man, Albert and I went in on this last season. He's just one of these guys, like, he thinks he knows it all. I don't think he knows anything. Like, he wants to play SL, which is such an important class, and you can assign a certain floor to it and fix yourself as a 3 that stays passive and never gets flanked. This guy's just like in his own world going 0-12 back-to-back weeks. I kind of ran out of faith when I tried to help him and he just blew me off. So he's a 1. Personally, I would not want to play with his SL.
I definitely wouldn't. Like you touched on it, his ego gets ahead of him, and his SL, you have to constantly never get full of yourself, because depending on what offense and players you're playing with, you have to completely change your style. So if you're not adaptive, there's no sense even trying to play that class.
Moving on, similar case here, but this is Imp, could be SL2. So we talked about DP in the last league. DP is an old friend of a lot of ours. Like we played the game together forever ago. DP hardly plays this game at all. Like the few times I see DP, he's usually on offense and he's quick to get frustrated if things aren't going well. It's like, yo, let's go 10-man. He'll say it 6 minutes into a game. So it's like, is it that bad? Yeah, man, fucking go 10-man. Oh, okay, well. So for me, that's not someone that I could like competitively keep up with, I guess, if you will. So I've got him as a 1. Better off in spec info. I don't think he'll take it personally. He just doesn't play this game at like the competitive level that a lot of us do.
Chris, you're a nice guy. You're not a great infantry, but I do enjoy playing with you when you're completely drunk.
and I don't. That's the difference. Okay, Loaf Pincher. This could be a controversial one. Oh, Hearth Angelus, you're such dicks. I have nice comments about this guy. He's just so fresh and new to the game, and like he's trying to get better. He's been raged on more than any other medic or combination of medics combined, excluding Gun Girl, who got chased out by CT's stupid ass. I don't know. Like it's a weird one for me in the notes. He doesn't have the awareness to understand like how to play medic versus different lineups. He's just kind of walling himself into this corner idealistically of, oh, I'm a medic. I got to trank occasionally and heal occasionally. And like a JT will still run right by him and flag it. He won't even know what happened until 20 seconds later. So I'm rooting for this guy, honestly, because he seems like someone that cares. But until it looks better, he's a 1 to me.
I want to see him succeed.
Yeah.
There's just times for even I'm like, how did he end up there? It's just strange. So I think if he just took a step back and literally just watched other medics for like 3-4 games and took a little bit of notes, he would learn a lot more.
Yeah. Mushberg, man, I got nothing on this guy. The few times I played with him, it was kind of like Conniver, just in his own world, playing a different game. We're trying to play an organized mix. It's like, hey man, you're on offense. Sounds good, brother. And then I find him like in the middle of a hill somewhere, just exploring the rocks. I don't know what the hell's going on with him. Again, I talk about my competitive nature. I don't think I could play with him. He seems to go on tangents about his Brazilian wife on the stock market more than playing infantry, so I'm not interested.
That man lives in his own world, and we just revolve around it.
Hell yeah. Tyrael, this one's not so much a troll. I don't understand the whole sign up of saying I'm only going to play DJT. From what I understand, the captain said they're not playing H4. In my opinion, you're not going to play DJT effectively at other bases outside of H4, at least not in this meta. There's an argument for both A5 and D6, but you've got to be surrounded by very capable DMs and an NG to carry that drain, just like I said for Mecha playing Foot JT on offense. So I've got him at the bottom if he's refusing to play other classes, because I wouldn't draft someone that's fixing them into a position that's subpar to the others offered at those bases. If he's just kidding and he's really willing to play regular, I've probably got him at like the 3 range for the D heavies, maybe close to 4. But yeah, if we're just talking about this weird DJT troll, he's a 1 to me.
I agree. Tyrael's he's a character that I'm going to call him more of like an aggressive troller. So as opposed to like ZMN, who just kind of makes me laugh whenever he's trolling. So I can never take Tyrael seriously, but I'm not sure whether he has bad intentions behind this or not.
Yep. So I think that does it for us. It's about 2 or 3 in the morning in Albert's fake time zone. We've covered all the players that had signed up at the time we started this podcast. Apologies if you guys signed up a little later and didn't get a rating. We will kind of keep our spreadsheet on the side. We'll keep updating up till the last day of the draft. Not going to go back and edit the podcast or anything, but we'll post the link to this spreadsheet in case anyone wants to look at our nerdy notes and whatnot once the draft kind of gets going and the player list is finalized. So if you weren't included, you certainly will be by the time of the draft, and you can have access to the spreadsheet to see our terrible thoughts about you all.
Yeah, and if you want to, question why you got the number that you did, please feel free to go ahead and message Albert in game. He'll be able to he'll be able to sort things out for you.
I had nothing to do with these ratings, but I do appreciate you guys doing that because that was actually pretty cool. Like, we haven't done anything like this, or I don't think this has been done where it's been like talked about why these ratings have been given to people and broke down like you guys did. So it was cool to hear. Like, I'm glad that I got to sit in and listen on that. And obviously, I have my own opinions on these people too. But again, where I'm captain, I'm just gonna leave it out for now. Shout out to JD though. This man,
JD Welch.
he's gonna take the world by storm in this draft league, bro.
I sure hope so.
Hey, Albert, I got a question for you.
Yo, shoot.
Since it's been announced that you got first pick, do you want to just go ahead and announce your first pick now?
Nah, I'm kind of up in the air about it. There's a few people
Welsh.
that we're thinking about. JD's up there though. I think he's pushing for number 1 for sure.
Hell yeah.
You guys are sleeping on him.
I think just to kind of wrap this, for all the comments we made, like the good side of it is for like 90% of you guys in this pool, there's tape on it. Like, we're not just pulling this out of the sky. We've played with you or against you. I've watched an embarrassing amount of like tape from these official league matches and scrims where we're withdrawing this information. So I'm open to all refuting of like, oh, you're so wrong, you're a dickhead. I'll show you the piece of tape where I got it from. So let's go.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, there's enough. I mean, Andrew, for example, and Axie,
Yeah.
who they record literally absolutely everything. So
It's a library.
it's literally,
Yes.
you can go on their Twitch or YouTube right now and see hundreds and hundreds of OVDs, mixes, games, competitive gameplay, scrims, whatever. It's all there. So it's not like this is just stuff you're pulling out of your ass right now. There's actual footage on it, like you said, and people can relate back to that to see that. All right, so that is going to clue up our podcast for tonight. So I'm going to take a little nap and edit this tomorrow and also post this tomorrow for you guys. So right now it's Tuesday morning, so you'll hear this at like 1 p.m. Eastern Tuesday probably. Would be a good guesstimate. Draft is happening Wednesday at 9:15 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be live streamed and commentated on the CTFPL Discord. I will put a link in the description of this video if you're not on there. Check it out and come in, listen, be part of it, support it. Should be very
You'll
fun.
hear my voice too, because I'll be commentating the draft.
Do you know who else is commentating with you?
It'll be supposedly ZMN and Yosh.
Okay, so that should be good. So you got two, vets of CTF, and then you have Yosh who can also weigh in on CTF and the skirmish players. So should be a good commentary. 3 good commentators for you guys. So check that out again, 9:15 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. That will be going down. That'll clue it up for us, guys. Herth and Kelby, thank you both very much for being on the podcast and going through all the information and the player evaluations. That was awesome. We really do appreciate it, and we appreciate your time. With that, guys, we will be back in probably a week after the draft with some more CTF Underground.
Cheers. Good luck, everyone.
Good luck, everybody. Good luck with the draft.